What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show on another Wednesday edition here of Theme Parkin'. And as usual, there's a plethora of news to talk about. I think literally I have on the sheet here, I think there is at least 10 stories that we could go over. We're not probably going to hit all 10 of these. We got some big ones we're going to hit here, but we do have some interesting things about Hagrid's. That is a very interesting conversation to have there about what's going on there, along with some permits that point to something that I'm going to tell you guys when we talk about it. I was told this a few days before that news broke, and I was like, it's probably not a thing. And then it turns out it is a thing, and I was like, dang it. But talk about that. And we're hit Bluey, because that seems like it is quite a hit over there in the animal kingdom. And then we're going to dip into some Disneyland stuff, because there's some stuff going on at Disneyland, including a potential chemical explosion that might be in the vicinity. So we're going to talk all about that today. But before we get to all that, I want to say hi to everybody in the chat real quick, and then we'll introduce anybody on the panel. We got John Make It Rain. We got Storybook Sorceress. Ewan, let's see, Ewan Kumia. I think I got that right. Maybe we got Rubio in the house. Okay, I might get it right one of these days. Sometimes. Jesse Adventure. We got Theme Park Wizard. What's up, Wizard? And we got Jacob Weller. We got all the people. David's in here. What's up, everybody? Thanks for being here. And I'm going to introduce the panel here. So we got a good group to talk about this stuff. And as usual, we're joined by Mr. Orange Grove 55. Thank you for being here. And where can everybody find you out on these always peaceful and non-argumentative interwebs?
No, absolutely. I love being here with you guys, talking with everybody in the chat. You can find me. I don't know why I'm looking so tan today. I don't know. Maybe because I'm at Universal this weekend.
But in California, just taking in those rays.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, you can find me right here on YouTube, Orange Grove 55, talking theme park, studio, corporate side, all that good stuff with these gentlemen all the time. You can also find me on Instagram, which is kind of my home base right now on social media. I'm taking a liking to the Insta, Orange Grove 55. And you can also find me on X, Orange Grove 55.
Absolutely. And we're also joined by Mr. Vash Sky and his plethora of knowledge. He's always, I appreciate Vash's preparedness on everything. So Vash, thank you for being here. Hopefully you're having a good day. And where can everyone find you out there on the internet?
Everybody can find me at Vash Sky. That's right down there on X, actually. It's probably the best way to follow me. You can also find me at the Vash Sky Parkcast, where we have amazing streams every single Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, following that Park Place. Every single Thursday at 6:30 p.m., a new time slot for us. But in order to get some more stories out for you, you can find us there. Also, too, on Saturdays at 3 p.m., that's for members right there. We have a Vash and Vixen show. Going to be pretty cool. OG, you're going to want to tune into this one, I will say, because we're talking about UFOs and Disney's relationship with them. Oh, yes. Were they actually trying to... Oh, yes. Were they trying to do a UFO Tomorrowland special back in the 1950s? It would seem so. Maybe the U.S. government had something to do with it not actually happening. It's going to be a lot of fun and more. So check us out that's for members on Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I love that stuff, Matt. You are speaking my language.
That is interesting. Dude, if I'm like looking for something to watch on YouTube, and if it's UFOs or something, I will click on it so quickly. I'm just like, what is this about? And it's good stuff.
Yeah.
I will check that. That's interesting. I like that. And then we're joined as well by Mr. Theme Park Conductor. He's back. He had to dip out the last time a little early. Had a little bit of an emergency, but he's back. He is good. People were like, "Where'd Theme Park Conductor go?" I was like, "We kicked him. We got him out of here." He wasn't given enough negative opinions on. I'm just kidding.
I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
But thank you for being here. Where can I find you as well?
Absolutely. I can't wait to talk about all these amazing topics. It's going to be a great live stream. You can find me on YouTube, Instagram, and Blue Sky at Theme Park Conductor, on X at Theme Conductor, TikTok at Theme Park Conductor 1, and every Sunday at 5 or 7 p.m. for Conductor Sunday live stream, where all three of these gentlemen have been on that live stream and will continue in the future to be on that live stream, talking about Disney, Universal, Studios, everything theme park related. And just like the chat's blowing up here right now and we haven't even gotten started, that's how it is over there on that live stream. So definitely go check it out.
Absolutely.
And we just talked about some of the HHN announcements over on OG's channel as well. So we're probably not going to hit that tonight, but they did announce Sinners was coming to Halloween Horror Nights. But probably whenever they have more announcements, we'll do a whole breakdown there, because I'm very excited about Halloween Horror Nights, because I was telling you guys I got Express Pass lined up. I'm not doing the plebe way anymore. I've done it every year that way, and it's by 2 a.m. I'm like, I should have just got the Express Pass. This is miserable. Because how about you guys? I get more tired standing. Like, that'll wear me out more just standing in a line than walking more.
Oh,
like
1,000%.
Like 2 years ago, there was a line. Everything was moving pretty quick, and I forget it was the house that had it was the movie like the haunted movie theater thing. It was actually pretty cool.
Oh yeah,
but that line took almost 2 hours,
Jesus.
And by the end of that, I was like, I just can't. Like, I was just like, I'm done. I can't. Like, the thought of a 90-minute wait after that, I was just like, I can't do it. But
now, Jared, you did mention the HHN show that actually drops tomorrow on my channel, but that one was really, really fun. That was with you and Conductor and our friend Tommy, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That the second half of that video goes so far off the rails.
That video was on track for a bit, and then just like, what's this side road? And we just wound up somewhere deep in the woods. We still don't know where we're at this point.
We were talking Bob Iger cardigans, all kinds of stuff. It was wild.
I still think they need to hang up, if they're going to give Bob Iger the Legends thing, he needs to have like a cardigan up there, and then all the people are be really confused. Because we're a Honda Center. Who plays in the Honda Center?
The Ducks.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're gonna have hockey fans being like, "Why is there a gold cardigan up there?" And they're like, "Oh, it's Bob Iger."
Perfect.
Remember, Bob Iger? His Lacostes are sitting right next to it on the thing, and it's like, well, I guess he deserved that. But yeah, well, the other one that went probably more off the rails was Candid's episode the other day. That one was.
Oh God! Don't even get me started.
I mean, I feel bad for anyone tuning into that one, because it was like this whole thing about Westcott, right? And people are probably gonna click that video thinking, okay, we're gonna get like a Defunct Land like video essay about this great like never happened kind of project, and it just goes out of control.
It's Defunct Land, but in the wrong direction. I could promise you that.
I will say, out of that, I really want Westcott to happen, because like that whole thing, like we did the math. I said that 300-foot ball there. I looked it up. It's almost the size of the Las Vegas Sphere. That would just be like at the center point. I'm like, what is this thing? That would be amazing. So I'm rooting for it from the outside looking in. I tell you that much.
We got to get that thing. Now, Vash knows a lot about Westcott too. He's knowledgeable about that. That park was such a cool concept, dude.
We need to do a full breakdown. Like that one thing that's in the middle of the water, it looked like a ship from Halo. I'm like looking at that thing, and I was just like, that thing looks odd. It looked like an alien spaceship just sat down. They're like, yeah, we're building a park around it. I'm like, that's crazy. But
pretty sick.
Dude, it's so crazy. Such a crazy project.
I hope it happens. We got a couple of super chats we'll hit before we get going here. We got Juliet here for a 5, I think it's euros, but thank you, Juliet. It says, morning Vash Sky Park Cast Skyliners. Capture the magic Orange Grove 55 theme park conductor in chat. Thank you, Juliet. Thank you for being here.
Juliet.
And then Xvoot with a 20. Thank you, Xvoot. Says, what do you think about the rumblings of a new Dark Universe ride? All while back, a pic from Bio that showed the expansion pad at Dark Universe with a statue of Frankenstein and Wolfman face up and creature face down. Curious. Well, we will break that. So I will save this. We'll bring this chat back up when we do talk about that. We're going to hit up that permit out there. But yeah, it is interesting. And I was actually told, like, I was telling you guys like 2 or 3 days before that news broke, and I think you could probably say thing Bash. It's like you hear like 1,000 different things from people, especially at Universal. It's like all this stuff changes. And I was like, oh, well, we'll see what happens. And like 2 days later, it broke. And I was like, oh, that was the one that stuck. Because it like half the time you hear something, and like the next week it's something different. But either way, it is exciting stuff for Epic. But
absolutely,
let's get into talking about some Bluey, his favorite little animated character out there.
Rudio is saying we got some real guys on the panel, so we're gonna have some real guys talking some Bluey. Let's go.
We got to chug our protein. You guys got your protein shakes ready? We could chug. I'm just kidding. We don't have to do it. I do have a protein. As typically goes, I have a protein shake here because I was like, I'm gonna need something.
There you
go. But we got real man news here. All right, we're gonna talk about Bluey here. So Bluey, if you don't know, it's not a meet and greet. It's I guess you'd call it an interactive experience with Bluey and Bingo over at Animal Kingdom. And if you know anything about Bluey, it is a huge show. It's actually the biggest show on Disney Plus. And then bringing it into the parks is, I I haven't questioned how big this would be. My question has been where they've been putting this. What is that going to look like from a demand and capacity standpoint? And we got a little bit of a clearer picture there as the virtual queue, which they're using for this, hit capacity within seconds on first couple of days here.
Oh, for
and
sure.
It looks like it's very much in demand. And so some people have been confused by this. It's like you play with Bluey and Bingo. There's music going. We're going to check this out in a couple weeks. But they have 2 drops. They have a drop, I believe it's 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. is basically to do this, and is done by I think 3:30 is when it ends here. So it's not like an all-day thing necessarily. But what are your guys' thoughts on this and sort of some have alluded to it being a little bit of chaos with this on the opening time frame here?
I'll tell you this straight up. When it dropped at the Fantasyland Theater out here in Disneyland, people went ape nuts over it. I'm not even kidding. It was packed. Every show was just filled to capacity. The merch went hard. It had a big following, and the one out in Disneyland is a little bit different because you're in the outdoor theater. This one kind of feels like, it's a show, but it's more interactive. Ours kind of feels like more of a show that you would sit down and watch. This one here kind of seems to me like it's more interactive. So it's almost like 2 different experiences. What do you guys think? That's what
Okay.
Yeah.
A couple things. My first time going to Animal Kingdom, I was just blown away by this train that takes you to this thing. It's like a cross between a Jungle Cruise boat and the Disneyland Railroad, which really blew my mind. I love that train. But aside from that, I think this is obviously Bluey. I mean, Bluey is enormously popular. I mean, if Bluey ran for LA mayor, I mean, Spencer Pratt and Karen Bass would be shaking. It would totally disrupt the race because Bluey would probably win. Okay, let's be honest.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So I think it's a smart idea, but I don't know. Taking the train over there though, with this kind of demand, I don't know. What say you, Vash?
Well, theme park conductor brought a great point. These are very different experiences, and I think the venues dictated what experience they can actually do, right? I think all things being equal and in optimum conditions, I think Walt Disney World would like to opt for an experience like what we actually have at the Fantasyland Theater at Disneyland. But again, the venue kind of dictates the show. And in this case, Animal Kingdom needs attractions. I think it only has maybe 6 attractions total right there. And obviously that park closes, early, partially because of that and so forth. So it's okay, well, we need it here. This is where we really need this, especially for young families and so forth. Remember, a lot of the attractions that used to cater to that demographic are now, either gone or behind construction walls waiting to open, and there's really nothing there for them. So it made sense to put this in this park. The problem is, now where are you going to put it? You can't really necessarily put it in the Lion King, theater because, Lion King plays there, right? It's huge. It's extremely popular. You're not going to get rid of that. You can't really put this in the Nemo theater because, this park requires additive capacity, not replacement capacity. And I'm sure a lot of these performers in both theaters are under contract and so forth. Maybe you could put it in the Kite Tails Arena. Problem is, it's outside, no shade, and you need some for the actors to actually go back, refuel, and do all that. And that Rivers of Light Theater just isn't provided by that. So this was really the only venue that you can actually stick this. Unfortunately, OG, I know that you like that train, but now if you want to go ahead and ride the Wildlife Express, unfortunately you have to get one of these drops, whether the 7 a.m. drop or the 10 a.m. drop, and apparently those are going extremely quickly. This was really the only place you could put it. Unfortunately, it's the right IP, right park, wrong venue, I think is the problem here.
Yeah, I agree. When I first heard, they teased this coming a few years ago. It was interesting because they teased it, and then there was some delay in getting this going, and I wondered at the time if they had some external maybe theme park rights were lying around, because you did have some Bluey stuff and some of the other I think it was one of the Sesame Street type parks. There may have been some mix up there, but whatever the reason is, they got it all figured out.
I think United had it for a little while.
That's who it was, and I think that at the time it seemed delayed there, but when they announced this and they announced where this was going, my first thought was, how in the world are they going to handle the capacity of this? Because like you were saying, there's really nothing in this park for kids right now. And this being the big thing, I think it's going to pull people in. But this also gives me Rise of the Resistance vibes when that first opened, where you literally would see people, you had to go into the park to get a drop, and you would see people either being like, yeah, or, bah, and you see this mass of people leaving the park. And this gives me the very similar vibes here. But I think you can't really, I think that they did the day before it opened, it had a little bit of an early preview where it just opened up and it was pandemonium back there. So you almost have to do a virtual queue here. And I think this is very limited in its capacity. And I feel like this is probably gonna make a lot of people very frustrated because I don't know what the chances are getting one. I have heard the second drop is a bit easier. It has gotten easier maybe as time has gone along, but it's definitely something if you want to do this and you got little kids, you definitely want to make a priority, maybe get there early. But at the same time, like I feel for those families that like their kids are dead set on doing this and they don't get to do this because it's such a big thing.
Well, let me ask you all this, because when I went out there, obviously I didn't go in this area. The conservation station alone, has it kind of been like a dead spot of Animal Kingdom? Like there hasn't been a lot of foot traffic because there's not a lot to do in that area. And do you guys think by bringing Bluey, that kind of revitalizes that area and gets people excited to be in that area once again?
I think it revitalized. I think the problem with it, you're right. I mean, when I was there, it wasn't very busy. Bluey will definitely ramp that up, but we're kind of going from one extreme now to the other extreme. And then you have limited access because of the train, unfortunately. And I love my train. I'm a vibes guy. I love my train.
That train is a bottleneck.
I'm your conductor right here.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It is that thing is a bottleneck for sure because it doesn't have the big capacity. And what this was before, they had the drawing experience was back here.
Yep.
And other than that, like you're right, it wasn't an area where people were like, I mean, as many times as we've been to Disney, I think we had actually gone back there like 3 or 4 times. Like just wasn't a whole lot back there. So it's definitely going to increase the demand there. But this park is so lopsided right now. Like you got this for kids, and then you've got like 5 other things to do. And that's kind of it. Outside, I know there's animal stuff. I'm not an animal person. I'm a very I'm fine with animals being in a zoo, but I don't care to go watch animals just be about. This is not something I'm into. But I think now here's a good question. Do you guys think this stays here long term, or do you think, given the popularity of not surprising of Bluey and seeing this come in here, do you think this moves to a different park, or do you think they build a dedicated area for this in the future? Like, what do you guys think they end up doing with this?
I think this is a temporary move to fill in the gaps. By the way, thank you, Kiki and Luca, for gifting the membership. Appreciate you, brother. I think it's a temporary move to fill in the gaps while they're building all the new stuff, like Indy, Encanto, the carousel over there, Tropical Americas, all that stuff. I think we'll have this probably for a couple of years, and when that new stuff comes online, they'll probably move this somewhere else. That's my guess. I'm just speculating, but I think this is basically just to kind of fulfill a need right now, because the park, I'm a vibes guy. I don't care about the rides really that much. So for me, it doesn't matter, but most normal people go to these parks to ride stuff, and Animal Kingdom was already kind of short on that. So you need to fill in a little bit with that whole area now under construction. They got to have something to sort of fill in these gaps. This is a good start, and I think for the next couple of years, for that new stuff to open, this will be around. I think that's kind of where I'm stand with it.
And then I want to say again, thank you, Kiki and Luca, for gifting a theme park conductor membership. Yes. And I have to agree, though. I do have to agree. This is going to be a filler type entertainment show. And from some of the pictures we kind of just saw earlier, how so many people are crammed inside in that little tiny area, I don't think it's going to last long. I think it's going to carry weight until, like OG said, Tropical Americas and other stuff opens down there in Orlando. But I don't know, man, because, if Bluey keeps being just a popular TV series on Disney Plus, I don't know. They might find a permanent home for them somewhere if it just keeps bringing in the revenue for Disney Plus.
Yeah, the only limitation for them to actually bring up permanent home for this experience is really just how long do we have the rights? How much do we really want to invest in a franchise that we could leave at any moment, right? I think that's the only limitation for transferring this to a proper venue that people might expect from something like the Disneyland Resorts Fantasyland Theater experience. But I think it's going to depend on what the surveys are with this, because I will say, in this space right now, it's not optimum. I mean, it's kind of controlled chaos at the moment, and I think it holds up okay, but I don't think it's necessarily the experience that Disney wants to put on. Plus, too, when you're in that space in Conservation Station, you have all this loud stuff going on with all these kids, it can kind of be sensory overload. So I think, if you have a this sensory sensitive child, maybe you want to go ahead and invest in some headphones or something for them in order to get them through this, because I think that's the other thing that's kind of holding this back right here. I think I agree with OG in that I think this stays as long as those expansions actually, set up. But I do think it will stay with us just a little bit longer. Again, it depends on those surveys. It depends on if, in fact, they want to go ahead and maintain this experience in this specific venue right here. I think Bluey is here to stay. And I wouldn't be surprised if they actually carve out a space that could be easily transformed later if, in fact, they lose rights to the IP, but something that is a little bit less supply constrained and showcases Bluey in this specific park. I think they do want this here. Animal Kingdom needs it. Even after these new expansions and so forth, I think they'll still need something like this, and I think they still want a presence here in this park.
Well, let me ask you this, because when I was in Animal Kingdom, you have you have Everest, right? And then you kind of have that outdoor amphitheater with the body of water that once had a show, then they got rid of it, and now it's just sitting there abandoned. Do you think they could use that outdoor amphitheater for interchangeable shows? Like maybe move Bluey over there and then change it to something else. So that way it's not a permanent Bluey show, but it's interchangeable like the Fantasyland Theater at Disneyland.
The only limitation there is go ahead, capture the magic, please.
I was just saying you could. I guess the question would be, do they plan on doing a nighttime show ever? Because that's been nothing has stuck in there forever. But it's a gorgeous area. The last thing they had was that kite show where they would crash videos. That thing was I watched that in person. I was like, what is this? Those kites just, the only way they could stop, they just crash into parts of the thing. It was kind of entertaining, but I mean, you could do that. And a little known fact, and I'll let you go, Vash. Actually, when they acquired the rights to Bluey for Disney Plus, Disney had the chance at that time to lock up those theme park rights. And I think it was Chapek that was like, nah, we're good. And then Bluey blew up, and they're like, oh no, we should have gotten those. And I don't know. Do you know where those stand, Vash? How long they have this, or what the limitations are on any of the Bluey
I don't know what the current contract is for the theme park rights, but you are right. They had both theme park and merchandising rights that they could have picked up for a steal back in 2019. Yep. They whiffed on it. Whoops. That's the one that got away right there. It's now back in house, but I'm sure they paid a little bit more for those rights. And that's the thing. I think they obviously see the value in this, and I mean, if in fact they have it long term, then who knows? They could set up a wide variety of different experiences. Hell, I wouldn't even put it past them to actually set up a new land if in fact they can actually work that out in advance. But the issue as it stands right now is, like you said, it's too supply constrained at this current moment. Could they necessarily put that in the Rivers of Light auditorium? Yes, and I think, or the amphitheater. I think they could, but the problem is, conductor, is that there is no shade out there. There's no shade structures, and there's no setup and takedown when it comes to characters backstage and so forth. There's just nothing out there, and that's really the biggest limitation with that area. Is just it's great for night, and even at night it gets hot. I remember it for Rivers of Light in those initial shows, people were still. It's a little bit hot under the pants there.
Yeah.
When they actually sat down, because it absorbed that heat from the day, and that was at night.
Yeah, especially Animal Kingdom. That thing feels a good 5 to 10 degrees hotter than any other place in Orlando. And Orlando's already a sweltering place in the summer for sure. I am curious, obviously, about this show in particular, the way this currently is set up, it's not a meet and greet. It's an interactive thing. I think the idea of that's really cool. It looks great for kids. My only thing is people being people, and do people get too pushy with this and they have to change this show because we've seen a little bit more roaming characters in recent bit here at Disney World, and I hope it sticks around, but it's just such a different dynamic compared to Disneyland because I think you just get a lot of people that are on vacation and they're like, hey, I spent $10,000. Get in there with Bluey. I'm going to get a picture. And if everybody does that, obviously this all breaks down. But I would be curious if they're able to retain those rights. And I think they're helping distribute the Bluey movie that's going to come out. So they're kind of trying to get themselves embedded with Bluey as much as they can. If this is a hit, if they have those theme park rights, I'm not going to be surprised if we do see some sort of maybe Bluey, I don't know about a land, but like an attraction. Like you could see an expansion of this on some level if they're able to do that. And I think if it was an Animal Kingdom, even after the stuff they're building right now gets completed, I think this may still be the biggest draw of the park, to be quite honest. How big Bluey is. Like I still think the demand of this will probably continue for at least a couple of years, as long as Bluey, retains its popularity.
It's very interesting you say that, and I'm going to ask OG this question because me and him have been on it.
Yep.
Do you think if they made it into an attraction, it could be like a Secret Life of Pets?
You know what? I like that idea. If they were to make a Bluey ride, a Secret Life of Pets over there, like what they have out there in Universal Hollywood, would be with the perfect tone and scope and scale for a Bluey attraction. Now, here's the only thing, though. This is why I don't think Disney will ever build an attraction for Bluey. Disney doesn't have a great track record when it comes to building like permanent dark rides or attractions based on TV shows. Sure. Disney Afternoon is one of the most legendary animation block to ever hit television. We have, I think, one attraction based on that, the Gadget Go Coaster in Toontown. That's it. So, and especially children's shows like this, they're hot, they burn bright, and then they're gone. It's like Barney. Yeah. So I don't know. In 10 years, I don't think Bluey's going to be a thing, to be honest with you. It's hot now, like Barney was hot, but in a decade, I don't think anyone's going to care about it. Just like no one cares about Roly Poly Oly anymore. That's
true. That's a good question. And I will say I have seen all the Bluey episodes because our kids go in and out of it. It is one of those shows, though, as an adult, I actually enjoy Bluey. Like when the kids want to watch it, I'm like, yeah, I'm totally cool with it. I think historically that is completely correct. I feel like Bluey might have more lasting power, but of course it's going to depend on how long do they keep the show going and stuff like that. That is definitely a question mark. If they did put a ride in here, how long is this going to be really relevant? But I think Bluey might be more relevant than some of these other kids shows we've seen before. But Vash, what do you think?
Well, it has cross-generational appeal, like you said. They're also producing a movie, which kind of gives it a little bit more legs and some cachet, right? Mm-hmm. We've seen crazier things. I mean, Simpsons got a land. Pretty insane that was possible. And now we have Mandalorian and Grogu as part of that Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run update. So, never say never. As I'm thinking about this and as I'm going through this, it almost seems like Zootopia should be at Conservation Station and Bluey should be beneath the Tree of Life. Doesn't it kind of feel like that? If you were to flip that, I think it would kind of work out just a little bit better. But c'est la vie, we're in the situation now. I don't know where we quite go with this. But look, I mean, it's undeniable. This thing is extremely popular. Obviously, the TV show has been running on for 6-7 years now or something like that. And it is... I don't think it's diminished in popularity. In fact, in some cases and sometimes, I think it's actually grown and so forth. That's why they're producing a movie right there. This thing actually moves, I believe, for pretty good. It moves merch, is what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I could kind of see them cracking that, OG, on at least on this one. But you make some very good points, indeed.
Yeah, I think Bluey, it might be one of those shows that's just different from the other kids shows for that reason. I think there's some question about how long it's going to run, and I think the creator behind it they took a break, so there's some questions there. But as long as this thing's number one on Disney Plus, I think Disney's going to give it as much as they want and try and get as much out of it, because I think it's like by far the number one thing on Disney Plus. And it's funny because it's not something they own. It is something they literally licensed out to do it. But I mean, I think, and you're right, Vash, too, about like the cross-generational appeal. It's something that a lot of these episodes, they're not really like a lot of the kids shows. If I'm being honest, like when my kids were real little, like I was not letting my kids watch like Coco or whatever that one show is. It's like all these bright, crazy colors. Just it seemed like it was just it's just like, what is this? It's actually a show that it's a kid's show, but it kind of reminds me of like 90s sitcoms about some of the stuff they hit. They'll hit some serious subjects in this show in a way that you're like, oh, like you're not heavy-handed about it. So it's interesting with this. It very much could be an anomaly of what we typically see in kids shows, but I think that this thing is if it is successful, this maintains its popularity, I think, for over a year, maybe 2 years. I would not be shocked if anything, they, like you were saying, Bash, maybe they graduated to a better venue.
Sure.
And I do agree with you. I think it makes way more sense in the Tree of Life than Zootopia does. Like if you swap these two out, I think most people would be pretty happy with that.
Hey,
you know,
Jared,
oh, go ahead, conductor.
I think me and you are going to point out the same thing. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, the wizard comment. Go ahead. Go ahead. Take over.
No. By all means, read it. Go for
it. Theme park wizard. I think this is interesting, and now this might play to. Keep in mind, Disneyland and Walt Disney World both have two different audiences completely, right? We have a lot of magic keys and stuff, but he says here, something to think about now. The Bluey show at Disneyland is much quieter in attendance as the weeks have gone by. So that's interesting. I'm very curious to see with this one in Florida with more of a tourist demographic, if it maintains its popularity or if it kind of drops off as well. Yeah. We have more locals here who go to the park multiple days a week. So it's
that's a different kind of what I was thinking. Like what do you guys say? 70% of Disneyland's locals? So like if most of those have already seen it, they may not be a lot of repeatability. And I think that's the thing with Disney World and Disneyland is like you constantly just have this new groups of people coming in that they've either never been or once in a while have been. And so I think it'll probably, especially in Animal Kingdom, if you have a kid, I mean, it's almost a no-brainer you're going to go try and do this, one would assume.
Yeah, you see this with theater shows, actually. Theater productions over there in Walt Disney World tend to last way longer than they ever do at Disneyland, because Disneyland, so many repeat visitation occurs over the years that people just, they see it, they get done with it, and they leave, and that's just about all she wrote right there. So I think with this specific demographic, I think this will, stand the test of time. I think it will. You will have very difficulty in getting a virtual queue on every single day that's available, just by the nature of this setup right here. It should be as convoluted as it is, and it should be far more accessible than it is, especially with kids with families with young children. But that's just where we are right now, and I do kind of wonder if Disney feels the heat on this one and changes this up in some way in order to make it more accessible in the meantime. But suffice it to say, people are not thrilled with this view queue process being attached to this specific experience.
Yeah, no, I agree. Even if you get a pass for it, or you get a reservation for it. I mean, some people are saying they're still waiting an hour and a half to be able to do this. So, especially with the little kids, maybe they change this up a little bit. But I mean, if you're looking to see if Bluey was going to be a hit, I think pretty early results are it very much is in demand, especially in this park. So we'll see what that continues to do here. Theme Park Philosophy said, what's up, Theme Park Philosophy? Said Barney lasted 25 years at Universal Studios, and Bluey is vastly more popular when you compare both at the peak of their popularity. So I don't see her moonwalking out of Animal Kingdom anytime soon.
Good point.
Good point. I too tend to agree. I hated Barney. Gosh, I was never someone to watch as a kid, but my goodness, I never could stand that show. But
Barney has that weird face. It's just weird, boxy. It's weird.
Yeah, and he's a dinosaur. I want to see dinosaurs do dinosaur stuff. I don't want to see him sing.
That's true.
I love you over and over again. Like, what is this? What's going on?
Don't get that song stuck in my head.
I want to see Barney see another animal, and he just goes and attack. Like, that'd be kind of funny in that show if Barney just randomly went off. He just went crazy because he's a dinosaur. And you're like, well, that's what dinosaurs do. Sometimes there you go.
With the power of AI and your imagination.
That'll probably be out there pretty soon. As he or was it the Real Venture says, Barney, I loved it as a kid. I mean, I'm sure as a kid, it wasn't something I watched as a kid, but I'm sure people have their Barney moments. It is funny when you go back and look at some of those old TV shows. Like, I really wish when I was a kid that you had the theme parks like now, because you'd had Ninja Turtles and really cool Ninja Turtle stuff and everything like that. That was what I was into the most of. But let's move over and talk about, and this is some pretty big news actually, Hagrid's. The ever-popular Hagrid's Motorbike Adventure recently, so almost a year ago, they put Hagrid's as part of the Express Pass at Universal Studios. If you know what that is, that's their cut the line system. And obviously it impacted the standby lines. And I've got a chart we can take a look at here and to see that. But Universal announced yesterday that Hagrid's is being removed from the Universal Orlando Express Pass system. And they didn't really give a statement. There were some people that showed a screenshot where they were asked this question. Universal said essentially they're making changes essentially for the guest satisfaction is what they're saying here. Now, my theory, and we can get into this, I think it's very possible they may end up putting Hagrid's into that Express Now option that they have, which is the single rider option for things.
Yeah.
But obviously, this starts July 1st when you no longer have this as part of it. What are you guys' thoughts on Hagrid's no longer being part of Express Pass? And do you think there's a possibility of this changing, or do you think you're just removing it just for the guest experience?
What do you think, Bash? What's your take on this, brother?
Well, this is a very interesting, series of events because, Universal was doing all it could to get as much capacity as this as possible, right? They built that new, facility building, backstage building right there in order to facilitate all day operations, right? So they didn't have to have that warm up period right there to fully saturate as many guests as possible, no matter what time they actually came in. Considerable amount of effort and money in order to facilitate that right there. And it's like, look, listen, 7 years after this debut, maybe we have gotten to the point where we can add on this express option for so many people who actually want it. And this had to be a very difficult decision to make, right? Because people have bought into the express option for the year for this specific attraction. We had a lot of people actually come out, in full force say, hey, look, listen, I got an annual pass just for this, and now you're going to actually take this off. This is crazy. But you gotta think, right? The experience for the standby guests was horrendous. This was regularly triple digits in terms of wait time right there. You had so many different people, saying, look, I waited all of this time for Hagrid's, and to see all of these express, people actually go through before me was a little bit, it wasn't the greatest feeling nor the greatest experience on the planet. And this is, I suppose they could actually add this onto the Express Now option, right? That is something that they have up their sleeve right here. But to value the guest experience over the monetary gain right here, I think is a big deal for Universal. This is a prioritization factor, right? When you move away from something, you move towards something. And this I think shows to me the experience kind of guest experience driven nature of Universal. Maybe you don't see this from Disney, but to see this here with this attraction, again, 7 years out from its debut, I think is really fascinating, really interesting. Hey, I guess we'll talk about it a little bit later, but Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, that's a whole different story. That's a whole, can of beans right here. But this right here, so popular, they had to actually remove it. Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
To remove the monetization, the money, I agree with you, Vash. That does say a lot, and I like that move. I will say Disney has been doing a lot of moves operationally, at least at Disneyland. Actually in Florida too, lowering the height requirements for Big Thunder, things like that. So they're trying to do the whole guest experience, like cycle more people through and all that. But the difference with this one, though, and you're absolutely right, Vash, is that they're leaving money on the table, though, and that's and that says a lot. So kudos to them for that.
That is rare when you see a theme park company demonetize a revenue stream, and not that it's the entire revenue stream, but obviously, and you're right, there's a lot of people, like when I made my video yesterday, that either upgraded to Premier Pass holder or bought Express Pass for an upcoming trip specifically almost for Hagrid's. And I'm sure Universal's, if you are in that situation, I'm sure if you go talk to them, they'll probably make it right with you some way. But it on its face, even if they do the Express Now option, this is a guest satisfaction thing, which when I first saw that, it's just like, I don't trust corporations. So for me, I'm just like, what do you have up your sleeve? But even if they do the Express Now option, that's still looking to monetize it. But I think they might, if they can do it, you retain more control. So you can do controlled drops of these, and if you have too many people, you can control how many you put out there, where it doesn't disrupt the standby line as much. But even if they go that route, this is still something to help relieve just the standby line, which is not something you typically see theme park companies do. But conductor, what are your thoughts on this?
So I'm going to come out bat swinging and say when I was out there, waiting in the standby queue sucked. I'm just going to be honest with you. It sucked. I think we waited, God, maybe about 2 hours. That was terrible. And that queue goes on forever. Like, I mean, just when you think you're getting around the corner, you're going to see the load station. Nope, there's another corner. Don't. It borderline gave me PTSD, I swear. But it is interesting Universal is going this route. My question is, by doing this and thinking it's going to be more efficient for the people in the standby line, I'm kind of curious if we're going to revisit this topic months from now when they tried to do something like that, which they're implementing, and it just didn't work out the way they thought. And then they revert back to what it was. Do you think that's a possibility?
I think this move was not taken lightly. I suppose there might be seasonality involved with it, right? Maybe during certain seasons you have something like this on offer, but for your busiest times, I can't see them having this applied. And that's the thing too, like people have booked hotel rooms at major resorts with the Express Pass option in order to get that. I mean, it's a big deal right here. So you don't take this on and off lightly. And I think it was Tom Bricker from Disney Tourist blog actually said that, look, as when you look at the Express Page option right now, it's off currently. I understand that, there is a date in which it's going to be officially off, but honestly, it's like it's effective immediately with that distinction right there, which is again, we really have not quite seen this with an attraction that I remember, and I think that standby queue, one of the reasons why it was so bad there, park conductor, at least if you actually experience it with this option available, is because that's. There is a slowdown right there when you actually have these Lightning Lane or Express Pass options actually added to your ride. And this is a ride that has struggled with capacity in the past. It's never really quite reached its theoretical that was offered by Intamin when they actually sold this to Universal, which is unfortunate. There's just so much capacity to go around. What are you to do when you have triple-digit wait times other than take off the thing that's really hindering it for everybody, including Express probably?
Sure. Yeah, I'm wondering if they kind of thought maybe that given it, when it was 6 years old when they kind of implemented Express Pass on here, maybe they thought that Epic and some of these other things were going to kind of mitigate some of the demand on this. But every time I'm in Islands of Adventure, at least previously, I haven't gone through the standby since it's had Express Pass because we either have had Express Pass or it's after 4 o'clock we would use it. But I have heard from people that saying it is notorious. Like some people are saying that it'll be posted an hour or like 110 minutes. They end up waiting like almost 3 hours for this, just because you never know with Express Pass, like how many people are going to come through and things like that. I'm a little surprised they didn't do something like, limit it to where for Hagrid, it's not unlimited. You can only go through one time. Cause I imagine there's a lot of people in that park that want to ride this numerous times in a day. And if you have a bunch of those people in the park, that's going to lead to this as well. But I mean, I will say from just this alone, like I do give them credit because you're right. This is a big thing to unwind this because you have this in-demand ride here. And so even, like I said, I do think they attempt to monetize this on some level, just given you have a ride of this much demand that is proven demand. It might be irresistible to not try something here. And I honestly think if you put this at like a single rider thing for like $50, I think there's people that would pay it if you could get on this that quickly to do it. But I have speculation that Lowe's contract, they may not be able to do that. I haven't heard definitively one way or the other due to like the hotels that offer Express Pass. There could be something in that contract where they couldn't offer this as just a basically like a single pass only if it's not on Express Pass. But either way, I think we've seen Universal show some restraint with Epic Universe and the amount of people coming in there due to demand constraints. And we see them do this again with Hagrid's. I do applaud it. It's not something you typically see. And it's very weird for me to look at this and just think like, maybe this is it just for the guest experience. I don't know.
Well, I mean, at least if you do this as an Express Now option, if you end up doing that, at least you can control it based on demand, and it's very dynamic in that way. It's very variable versus, kind of an all or nothing thing that Express happens to be. I think the reason why they may have not removed this from, if it was on Express Unlimited, I want to say it was, to your point, Jared, but
it was.
If it wasn't, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, no matter what the case might be, that I think was a very small subset of Express, and it's just not enough. We just need to clear this out because we need to get this line moving, and that was what they did right there. Long Rua, interestingly enough, has a super chat right there for 20,000 Vietnamese dong. Islands of Adventure demand capacity. We need Pokemon like yesterday. Absolutely, there's no question about that. You need another attraction to take the heat off of this thing. We all thought that was going to be Velocicoaster, and it's fantastic. It's great, but I think they need a couple of attractions to take off this very highly themed coaster right here. It has shocked me how much this has endured. Look, it's a great coaster. There's no getting around it, but it's crazy. 7 years out, and this thing, acts like it just opened yesterday in some cases.
Yeah, it's crazy. Now, I will say this. I want to bring this comment up because I think Remy brings up a good point here. Remy says, what are they going to do to compensate annual pass holders who bought the premium version for 4 p.m. Express? That's a fair point. You bought that with the auspice of, okay, I'm going to get this perk, right?
Yeah. I'm sure if people are in that situation, I'm sure if you contact Universal, I haven't heard any specific, situations of this, but I have heard from people that they are, for people that did book it for vacations, that they're doing something for them. So I don't know exactly what they can or are willing to do, but I do feel for those people because there's a lot of people that probably, that did put them over the fence to get it because they're like, oh, Hagrid is part of it. Every time we come in here, we can just get on Hagrid's. And honestly speaking, if I didn't have Express Pass, I'm not going to ride this as much because when we went the last time, we had it because we stayed at Royal Pacific, and our daughter, she went, I think we rode it 3 times the same day. Oh, wow. And I will say the Express line, somebody said the Express line, people report it moves slowly. Not for me. The times I have used this, it's been very quick to get on this, 20 minutes in the Express line for the most part. Yeah. So it was pretty efficient there. For the Express users, and it's somebody personally speaking, it's a bummer for me because I'm well, I can't use it now, but I can understand it from an overall guest perspective here. And even if they do something down the line differently, and maybe once Pokemon comes online and some of these other attractions at Islands of Adventure, it probably will return at some point. I mean, this isn't going to be a permanent thing. It will come into Express Pass again at some point. Yeah. I think it took how long did it take it for Forbidden Journey? I want to say it was 8 years or something, or was it that long? I can't remember. It was a time period there before they put it on Express Pass because that one for a period of time was kind of like Hagrid's. By the way, Hagrid's in the rain would be crazy. But yeah, I know. Crazy once the demand comes down, but it's a great coaster. It is my favorite coaster. It is a lot of fun, and I totally understand why it has this type of demand. And I think Velocicoaster, I'm not a coaster person, but I also think you don't have as much demand there because it's so intense. Yeah, I think Hagrid's is kind of that middle ground where it's not a kiddie coaster by any means, but it's also not Velocicoaster. And so more people, and obviously Harry Potter attached to that, is going to get more eyeballs on it. So
I wish we had more mid, and I don't mean mid with quality. I mean mid
thrill.
Yeah, exactly. I wish we had more mid family style coasters like this out here at Disneyland Resort, because it's sometimes you want that thrill, but you don't necessarily want Velocicoaster or Fast and Furious. You want something that's okay, I want to get my heart rate up, but you don't want to you don't want to go crazy with it, right?
Panic attack.
I need one step up from Big Thunder, right?
Oh, yeah, that's perfect, Josh. Exactly. One step up from Big Thunder. You can put something like that in DCA. You can put it in Disneyland, whatever the case. But we need something like a Hagrid's would be perfect, absolutely perfect. And we're lacking in this department big time out here. I mean, even Disney World, they have a lot of this mid kind of thrill family stuff, like Slinky Dog, which is actually a lot faster than I was expecting, which is kind of crazy.
Seven Dwarfs
and the Seven Dwarfs
is all too. Yeah.
Yeah. So Yeah, they got some great stuff. We got to step it up out here. You know.
Well, they did copy this for Epic, and they essentially, if you look at Hiccup's Wing Gliders, as I've always called it, baby Hagrid's. It's the same ride manufacturer, very similar concept. Not as thrilling as Hagrid's, but it's still that also is a great coaster. So I actually think you'll see more of these type. What would you call this? Like a story coaster? I mean, it's got set pieces in here.
Yeah, I would say that, because there's a lot of theming elements to this, and it's all outdoors for the most part. So yeah, I would call it that. And I wouldn't be opposed to seeing stuff like this, because not everyone, like OG said, not everyone can ride Velocicoaster. Because I'll tell you, riding that the first time, I'm going to be honest with you, because I am a coaster guy. The first launch, I handled. The second, I was not prepared for. That threw me for a tailspin. I'm like, holy Lord.
So I heard this ride, the Velocicoaster gets faster as you go, pretty much. It does not even out. Okay.
Oh, yeah, it's like it's just breakneck the entire time.
It's pretty intense. It's one step up from Hagrid's for sure. No, I mean, look, this is a great family coaster, right? It fits in that demographic that obviously plays towards a family because of the IP actually chosen, but I think it does play for a slightly wider audience, like you said, because it's just one step below Velocicoaster. It's unbelievably well designed. It actually surprised me when I actually rode it in person, because I was like, whoa, this experience is really, really fantastic. It's really awesome. It's like a low sling blitz coaster from Intamin, highly themed. Like you said, probably story coaster would probably be the most accurate description for this. But look, I think IOA is, I think we're getting to that time where we probably need some more attractions for this park, and well, that's why they're doing that right now with the Lost Continent area. So, hopefully when those attractions get on board, and maybe you have Fast and Furious over there, and also Adventure get on board, now it's like, okay, now we have multiple coaster options. We can go ahead and spread this out, and the demand will subside just a little bit, enough to put Express back. I think you're right, Jared. I think this is going back on. It's just, for right now, they just simply cannot provide the experience, I think, for this, with the supply limitations that are on this coaster. Again, I think it's like 1,000 less than Forbidden Journey, if I'm not mistaken, right there, maybe even more. So it's just they just can't offer that experience for standby. It just goes to a crawl. So we have to let that line up. Also, too, I think Mark was brings up a good point with the make good, right? With the guest recovery, when it comes to this specific option right here, it does say, subject to change, in the terms and conditions, which is unfortunate. But I wouldn't put it past Universal to make good, maybe privately, like you said.
Yeah, I think they probably will, because that's also going to be a bad look if you got people that like, I upgraded and I bought this huge package and a lot of it was for this ride in particular. They're usually, from the most part, what I've ever heard, pretty good, and so is Disney for the most part, about if you got complaints about stuff, usually they'll do something to try and take care of you there. But
sure. Well, let me ask you this, because Vash, you, me, and OG know about this, because we're having the similar problem with Lightning Lane out here at Disneyland. Seeing that Universal is exploring these options, starting with Hagrid's, does Disney look at this and possibly maybe, try to test it at Disneyland? Because for a long time now, we've all heard time and time again people complaining how Lightning Lane's oversold. Lightning Lane takes over all the attractions. People are waiting 2, 3, 4, 5 hours in a line for an attraction, and it's gridlocked. So could Disneyland explore this option?
Here's the thing, right? With the money end of it, I think that's the only thing holding that up.
Sure.
But I will say that right now, we are probably the closest to this being a possibility than we've ever been. Yeah. Because that Thomas Maslam, the new experiences chief, he's all about the operations and the efficiency and the capacity.
Yeah.
And if he sees a way where he can maybe knock some of these out and get people moving through them, it's a possibility. Like, again, they're forfeiting some money though. So, I mean, that's an issue, but maybe they will look at Universal and be like, well, it's working for them. The guest surveys are really positive. We're cycling through more people. if we can get people through this thing faster, we can get them into the restaurants and all that. So maybe it's possible. I think right now, if they were ever going to do anything like this, it's with Maslam, because he is a stickler for this kind of stuff.
The only reason I bring that up too, because you've mentioned it so far in this live stream and then other content as well, that when you look at Disneyland compared to Walt Disney World, Disneyland is a locals park. And they've even stated in the past they want to make it more tourist related, like Walt Disney World. Right. So making these minor changes could help that. It's not going to fix it, but it could help that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I mean, the problem is that if you let's go down that logic train for just a second right here. That Wildlife Express train down the logic way. If you follow that out, for either Lightning Lane, Multipass, or Premier or whatever, they have to add value to that system in order to make it a purchasable entity for tourists and maybe even annual pass holders themselves. And the only way to really do that is to add, attractions onto that Lightning Lane system, not take away from it. And this is why, we've seen attractions like, Little Mermaid, for example. It's like, are you really putting Lightning Lane on that? It's like, yeah, because, when you see that list of attractions right there, that is a real big determiner whether or not that one person is going to, enter into that service. And so I don't really, for that reason, I don't really see it going away. I mean, we did have that trial period with, the reopening ever since April 31st of 2021 with the reopening of the parks. Remember, there was no fast pass or Lightning Lane service available right there. They got to see those operations firsthand. I think the attractions that are on the system are on the system. I don't think any one of those attractions fits this kind of very unique Hagrid situation where you have triple-digit wait times, you have inordinately limited capacity, extremely high demand. It just nothing fits that, I think, on both coasts, actually. So I think whatever's on that system is there to stay. However, Thomas Maslam is making some changes that we all thought were inconceivable before this era.
Yeah,
he's an interesting experiences chief, because he's doing a lot of things that nobody has done in the longest time, and he's addressing some issues, but we'll see. It's still kind of early, so I don't want to count my chickens before they're hatched. But I mean, so far I'm digging the capacity stuff and all that, because I do think that was a big problem for at least out here in Anaheim,
Well, and I think we talked about this on your live stream a couple weeks ago, Vash, but it's like he, at the town hall thing he did, I think it was before he was named the chairman, he had some very interesting statements, being very blunt about some of this stuff. And, I think even with Joe Shute as the new Disney World president and Thomas Maslam and tomorrow, I think you definitely have a different leadership prism maybe going into the parks.
Yeah.
And I'm curious how that pans out. Obviously, it's easy to say stuff, and he's had comments about wanting less phone usage. How do you really do that? But I do like at least hearing those things. That's not stuff we have heard in as long as I've been covering theme parks, really, in the past decade at least, of hearing the way that he was talking and even doing this with Universal. So maybe this comes with competition as well, because Universal obviously is competing with Disney World, and they don't want to have bad guest experiences because they're still trying to, word of mouth and things like that. So the only thing I would say about Hagrid's is, and I think you had mentioned it, Bash, it's like this could not have been a very easy decision to make, because you're going to have this negative fallout from it. And, even like I said, even if they do bring in the Express Now type of thing, if they're able to do that, it still maintains more control over it. And the whole idea there would be not to impact standby line as much. So it does seem like this is a move to help, the standby people that are not buying Express Pass, which typically that's not something you see. Usually they want to take care of the people that are paying the bucks for these things. So I will give them credit for that, and we'll see how this pans out. But I think at the very least, you get to 2 years, whenever Pokemon or whatever land is done for Lost Continent, some of the other things like this will come back. And maybe naturally some of the demand falls off. I mean, just now, I think when Tron came online for Magic Kingdom, you finally saw some of the lesser of the demand for Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, which basically maintained 90-minute wait times almost around the clock for a better part of a decade. So some of these rides do maintain that type of demand. And personally, if this ride was ever like a 40-minute wait, I would ride this constantly because I love this thing. At some point,
No question.
Yeah, at some point it'll hit that, but obviously I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. But it's interesting stuff nonetheless. I think when you're looking at this, but you guys have more thoughts on this before we move on to Epic Universe?
Well, I just want to say one thing too, actually, to touch upon a little bit with Thomas Maslam, real quick. I will say this. I think so far, under the Damaro administration, I don't know what you'd call it, the Damaro era.
Regime.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I think he's done, I think some of the decisions made with leadership have been pretty good. I like Thomas. The new guy for Disney World, I heard, is very solid. I mean, they're making moves, you know what I'm saying? So we'll see how it shakes out. It's still kind of early, but I mean, it takes, I think it takes a good leader to kind of recognize good talent and where to put certain people in certain positions. That's not an easy thing to do. That is a skill. And I think so far he's been doing a good job on that front, to give him credit. So
I think absolutely.
So. And by the way, I forgot to mention this. I'll show this real quick because I brought it up and I totally forgot we got to talking. The impact of Express Pass on these wait times is something you can see. If you look here on this weekly chart, this is from Thrill Data. So if you look here, you had Express Pass introduced around this time period right here. And you can definitely see, I mean, we had some big months in January. We're up to like 200-minute waits or more on this.
And the capacity for this has to come from somewhere. You cannot add more capacity to an attraction unless you add a new track or, you know, all of that. It's just the capacity is what it is. So it has to come from somewhere.
Yeah. And I actually ran these. So I actually went to Grok and I was like, run these numbers. So basically, ever since Express Pass has been implemented on this, you have seen an increase of 22 to 33% in standby wait times. And even if you take out, I actually did have it take out January and February because those spiked really high. It was still about a 20% increase. So it's undoubtedly been, it's impacted wait times, undoubtedly.
So think about that too. One could extrapolate from that maybe we're seeing like 30% of that queue, that attractions capacity being dedicated straight for Express, which actually, if that is correct, that's actually pretty light because we've seen Disney go 50-50 in some modern cases and maybe even past that in order to get lightning lanes through, which is really unfortunate. But even at the more conservative numbers there, they were still, it was still past the threshold where it was like, okay, we just can't provide a good standby experience, which I think is also really interesting that they just could not make this work.
Yeah. I mean, if you had a whole year to test it out, obviously they saw the numbers and thought not right now. But yeah, I was kind of curious. The first one I saw that, I was like, I realized at first I was like, well, I don't think that's true. But then I realized I had not been through the standby line ever since they introduced Express on this thing. So I didn't know. And then once I started looking into it, I was like, oh, wait a minute. Yep, they're right. So it is interesting nonetheless on there. But speaking of Universal, let's hop over and talk about, I don't think this is going to come as a huge shock to anybody here, is the fact that we do, and I've got this article here from Orlando Park Stop is where I found this, but new attraction coming to Dark Universe according to new permits. And this is permit number B269001713. Rolls right off the tongue. And it says here, actually, I think this came, they credit Theme Park Wizard on this. So shout out to Wizard. Nice. He's becoming the permit guy on all these things. So basically, Area 680, it says a likely reference to the Project 680 permit from before. And this is looking like it's going into the Dark Universe area, which is funny because I've heard so much different things about so we know the Wizarding World's getting an expansion. That's kind of been, the permit's been out there. We know that's been coming. The big question was it going to be Dark Universe or Super Nintendo World? And I had heard for late last year, it was like Super Nintendo World, ready to go. It's going to be the next one. It's going to start construction later in 2026. I was like, okay, cool. And then a couple weeks, it was probably 3 or 4 days before this news dropped. I was told actually it's gonna be Dark Universe. I was like, really? And I was like, well, who knows? With Universal, things change all the time. Turns out they did file the permits for this, so it looks like we're getting expansions to Ministry of Magic and Dark Universe. And what I was told is they're leaning toward a boat ride, which would make me think Creature from the Black Lagoon. Yeah. I think there has been some internal discussions about Bride of Frankenstein being one. But what do you guys think about Dark Universe getting the other expansion here for Epic Universe?
I'm kind of up for the Creature of the Black Lagoon myself.
Same.
I think that kind of gives you a little bit of like a little more variety. I mean, we have a lot of Frankenstein, don't we? Already, kind of like I would like to see something a little different with the Black Lagoon guy. Black Lagoon creature. I don't know. That's just me personally, and I like the boat concept. I think that's kind of where I'm at with it, but I don't really know much about what they would even do with the Bride of Frankenstein attraction. So I don't know. But for me, I think creature is where wasn't that the original concept though when they were building this thing? I thought that was actually going to be one of the opening day attractions. No,
it was. I heard it was, but Vash, go ahead because go ahead.
Yeah, I had heard maybe something similar as well. I mean, that was on the launch list of things for a while there. But the Bride of Frankenstein is interesting because Creature from the Black Lagoon is actually represented in the Frankenstein experiment. Bride of Frankenstein is nowhere represented in the land, so that's kind of the argument that Alicia Stella has for this specific attraction, going maybe in that direction. I do think it's very interesting that the IPs that either Universal owns outright or the ones that they have long-standing relationships with are the ones chosen for the first expansions for Epic Universe. I think that's really key right there because I do think Universal might be having just a little bit of an issue getting Nintendo on board with expanding their footprint out in their Universal parks currently, because from what I understand, Nintendo's pretty demanding when it comes to certain attractions, iterations, and so forth. So it's like, okay, well, look, listen, this park needs to expand, and Dark Universe is like one of the smallest lands. We have full control over it. Let's go ahead and do that. We already have a place for an expansion already, laid out for this. Let's go there. And then obviously the Wizarding World with it only having one attraction. I think like if they would have redone this, right? If they had a second chance to do it all over again, maybe they would have opted for that second attraction in that spot, because for a while there it was on the plans, it was going forward. This is it's going to have two attractions, and they dropped the other one. Now it's like, okay, let's like rush it back in. So it's kind of really fascinating to see where the priority level is for all these things and where they're actually going with this. But Dark Universe, one of the smallest lands, and it obviously needs a little bit larger of a footprint. I think a boat ride would fit this park really, really well, because really it doesn't have a proper one currently. But maybe they go in a different direction entirely just based on a variety of metrics that they're seeing.
Yeah, that was the question I had whenever sorry, real quick, I'll say it.
Go ahead.
Was whenever they told me, Dark Universe, and I was like, and they said Creature, and I was like, but and I think Wizard had alluded to this, Universal's not super happy with Mac given the whole Stardust Racers incident. And Mac has that water coaster thing that does look like a cool ride system that seemed like it would be perfect for Creature from the Black Lagoon. So and Wizard saying he's heard Bride of Frankenstein. I've heard both. So who knows which way this goes, but this is an image right here of the expansion plot for Dark Universe would be in the back of the land. And I will say, listen, Epic Universe, I think Dark Universe is a cool land. It is very small. So I think this is a prime one to expand this. And I think in whatever it is, needs to be indoors. A water ride probably would be pretty good for this park, given it's very hot right now, not a lot of shade. I think that could be the direction they go there with it. So whether it's Bride of Frankenstein or Creature, personally, I think I'd rather have Creature. Yeah, but they may not be they may not have anything else other than the Mac ride they're looking at, so that may be something they don't do. But go ahead.
That's a good point.
No, and Remy D actually makes an interesting point, because I saw this when I was out there in March. He said Dark Universe is not, or is the most unpopular land, meaning not packed. It makes sense to beef up that land. I do agree with that 100%, because I went into every single land. I did Epic Universe for 3 days, and all 3 days I went in each land to kind of see where the crowd level was at. It was either at Harry Potter, it was either at Isle or Burke, or Super Nintendo World. Dark Universe, I can walk on the main attraction. I can walk on the werewolf coaster multiple times. And I even got asked by team members, hey, you just want to stay on the ride and just go again.
That's
it was
crazy.
not packed at all. Their experience with the makeup, no one was doing that. There was no one in the gift shops. Like the restaurant, you could just walk in there. There was no reservations. It was very light in crowds. So I could see why Dark Universe is getting that expansion first to kind of beef it up. Because when you go into Nintendo, it was packed. Yoshi Ride, Mario Kart, Donkey Kong, packed.
Well, let me ask you guys a question. Because I didn't know that. I've never been to this park, so full disclosure.
Okay.
But I've heard similar things at what you're saying, Conductor, that this land is definitely like the least busy, right?
It's the least busy.
Yeah. So do you think that's possibly why we're hearing these rumors from like the Wrap, right? That they want to make Villains Land more family friendly. Are they looking at the numbers from Dark Universe, which is a pretty more intense of a concept than a Disney, like the Disney Villains Land, most likely? Do you think that that's why they're toning it down and making it more friendly and adding the Hades comedy club, and they're doing the whole Emperor's New Groove thing because they're seeing how maybe families aren't really going to this land? Maybe it's a little too scary for the kiddos.
Go
ahead, Jared.
I was gonna say, I feel like maybe that's more possibly. I think now, to Conductor's point, like when we were at Epic a couple weeks ago, Werewolf was like 50-minute wait.
Oh,
Walk.
really?
It was 10-minute wait for the
Unchained.
Monsters Unchained.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually the thing that works against it is because it has so much, it moves so many people through it so well that you don't have people in this land necessarily hanging out as much.
That's true.
But Werewolf, I don't think is a really good second ride. It's not worth more than like a 15-20-minute wait, in my opinion. You just spin a lot on it. You know, it's possible. I mean, I think this land to me was always like it was kind of Universal taking a swing at this. Because I think if you would have said they're going to dedicate a whole land to the Universal monsters, like these are really, I mean, these are properties been around for 100 years. So I think this was probably the biggest risk that they took in this park was doing this land. And some of it could be the popularity of the monsters. Some of it could be maybe a little bit of scary. But honestly, like my kids, like they're 9 and 6, they actually rode Monsters Unchained and loved it. So I don't think it's like really scary for kids in here. Like there's really nothing that like it's not like you're walking in Halloween Horror Nights or anything like that.
No.
If we're talking about for Disney, I think it may just be more like what does their audience want? And I think maybe we've seen Disney lean more into the family stuff with like the Bluey experience, with some of the stuff they're doing at Hollywood Studios, and maybe they're kind of just trying to reinforce their strongest demographic, maybe. But they could be looking at this and thinking this doesn't fit us, and maybe it's not something that is going to be this mass appeal thing for our audience.
That's true.
I do kind of wonder, because I've been thinking about it, racking my brain on this. Obviously, I think one component about this specific attraction, this Frankenstein experiment, is that it's super high capacity. I mean, unbelievably high. And it just churns out people like crazy. Not that it's a bad ride. I don't think it is at all. And I think people really enjoy going on it. It's just, it's very, very, it's a people eater. And so one of the things that could be, you know, not ideal is that it churns through so many people so quickly that they're not being held in the queue. So, you know, now it's like, okay, well, what else are we going to do? There might be a little bit of that. I'm not sure, but I think that might be playing into it. I think you're right, Jared. I think this was a kind of a question mark for Universal to see whether or not there was appeal here with the monsters. I think there is, but obviously not as much as maybe Harry Potter, Nintendo, or How to Train Your Dragon. And so it's like, okay, well, let's expand this out to have another attraction to get people over here and to kind of shift demand this way. It could be the other factor going into their consideration for where an attraction might go in this park. But for like Villains Land, I think Disney might be looking at this and going, okay, like, is it necessarily because of the scare factor, or is it because of the IP chosen by Universal specifically? You know, that I think might be the calculus for them, maybe even more than scary or not scary. Although Drew Taylor, in the Wrap article, right, he brings out a couple of points that are really interesting. I do hope that they trust in the strength of their IP, especially as it relates to the villains. They saw that massive, rock star like crowd that occurred at D23, both the times they featured Villains Land and featured talk of it and so forth. I do hope they keep with the kind of scare factor, but you do see Disney very recently going towards families a little bit more than they had before, right? For a while there was like bars, adult entertainment, and now it's like, okay, Bluey. Now it's like, let's go ahead and make some of our things more kid friendly. Let's go ahead and attract families with some of our discounts and offers and so forth, like kids getting free, for example. So it's really kind of this interesting dynamic playing out here, but I don't know if it's the scare factor necessarily keeping people back, as like Jared said. I think there are some other factors there that Disney might be looking into.
My issue with the villain, because you're absolutely right, Vash. Like when they announced that Villains Land at D23, I was there, and it was like you couldn't. I mean, my ears were ringing. People were going bonkers, but it was based on that artwork, which had a creepy, sinister kind of vibe, right? And now they're going to go in this other direction where it's like, just kidding. Well, rumor. I don't want to say they are. We don't know. It's the Wrap. I mean, it's a Hollywood trade, so there's probably some validity to it. But now they're going to go in this other direction where it's like, nah, we're going to do kid friendly. My only issue, and I don't necessarily, I'm not opposed to them doing more kid friendly stuff. I think they should. My issue though is that if you're not willing to, each IP is different, and if you're not willing to do what the IP needs, then don't do that IP. Like if they're scared to do a Villains Land that's going to be a little bit more, a little more adult because they have to be creepy, then don't do Villains. Like put something else in that area where you can fully commit to the kid thing. To do Villains and then like kind of half it. I don't want to cuss, but you know what I'm saying? I don't like that. And you don't want to do the scary thing, then don't do Villains then. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's how I see it,
You got to do it right. And it can't, I think you're doing a disservice to both demographics if you lean too heavily, maybe one way or another. Like you can't do too adult, obviously, but you can't do too kid friendly either. I think a nice middle ground right there with the villains. Look, they're Disney villains, right? They offer you the opportunity to do that, but I think it has to have a little bit of an edge, a little bit of cynicism, a little bit of, that macabre, right? Just a bit, in order to be taken seriously. And, when we read that Wrap article, it was really disappointing to see that they were maybe going so kid-friendly. It's like, that might, I mean, do you really want Fantasyland 2.0? Or do you want something, different tonally as well as, who it appeals to? I don't know. It's just...
I agree. I had said the whole time, even before you start saying, like, are they going to try to emulate Dark Universe, which I was told by some people in Imagineering that they were going over there to check that out, I'm sure, regardless. But I think it's going to be you got a very thin needle to thread for Villains Land, in my opinion, of appeasing the demographics there. So I think on its own, without even any of this external stuff from whatever Epic's doing or anything like that, is going to be a challenge for them, because I think the biggest complaints you're going to hear is just that it's too scary or it's not dark enough.
Yeah.
And I think that's where your biggest issues would come from this. And so to me, if they can get the vibe kind of like that Villain show, I think that's a pretty good vibe for Villains Land. I feel like that show actually does a pretty good job of that. But in my opinion, Villains Land is going to be more difficult for Disney to pull off than Universal actually doing Dark Universe, because that fits into what Universal does and it's one of their properties. Whereas it's just, I hope they can pull it off, but that's always been my whole hesitation. I'm like, that's going to be tough to appease your own. I could see Disney's situation being like, you look at the numbers, you look at the money, and you're like, which demo do we want to basically cater to on this? And maybe according to those rumors, the kid, the demographic with the kids is the one that won out, and that may be what they're looking at. But I don't know.
Well, yeah. Well, Keep It Happy makes a comment. It's a kids park. See, that's even more reason to not make another kids area, though.
Exactly.
like you want to diversify. If it's a kids park and there's a ton of stuff for kids in Magic Kingdom already, then what's the problem of having a 7-acre land that's maybe skews a little bit older? I think if anything, that brings in a little bit more of a variety.
It does.
Quadrant.
Right? I don't know.
But at the same time, you're messing with the number one theme park in the world and the vibe of the whole park. I mean, just devil's advocate. I could see all these conversations happening in a boardroom. Definitely. And I guess it just comes down to probably tomorrow and what he decides that they want to do with this and which way they want to go.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. I mean, as long as we get a Bob Iger in a cardigan animatronic in Villain's Land.
There you go, right?
He is the villain of the land, yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Perhaps you think you're being treated unfairly.
No, Bob, no.
But he's got to take that other shower. He's really mad that his shower was taken. That's the whole plot of this land is Bob Iger's second shower he's got to take during the day. And listen, you don't want to get in the way. You don't want to get in his way there. But
Bob Iger's shower adventure.
Ooh. That's on the special section of Disney Plus. That's that's
a Hulu land.
That's true.
It's under the mature content, if you will. No, I think we're talking about back to Epic Universe. I agree. I think Dark Universe is their weakest land, but I also think it was the land that had the most question marks around it. So I can understand why it was the smallest, why they didn't have as much stuff in this necessarily. And I think if you're looking at relieving Super Nintendo World, which is always just slammed with people, the next door neighbor one kind of makes some sense there too, to try and push people that way. And then eventually Curse of the Werewolf can be just a filler attraction. Right now, that's kind of the quality that it is. It's just kind of stuck trying to be the role of a secondary attraction, which I don't think it is. So if you put another ride in here, that's going to pull demand away from, Curse of the Werewolf. You still got Monsters Unchained that moves people through like crazy. So it's probably, and if you get a ride in there that moves people as well, that would definitely help out this park and probably just get more people in this land.
I hope they also expand the footprint of this land as well, because because it was so underbuilt, maybe that's one of the reasons why people are kind of like quick to like, okay, we'll send it and go. Yeah. I think there might be more room to expand the overall footprint, more places to explore, more people, more places to keep people. I think would be a good thing for this part of the park. So we'll see.
Yeah, I agree. I think and making it bigger would definitely not be a bad thing at all. No, anything like that. So we will. We'll see.
Because aesthetically, the land's beautiful.
It's a cool land.
No question about that.
But really, when you go in here, like once you walk around once or twice, you're just like, okay.
That's kind of how I thought.
Yeah, and there's not a lot keeping you in here, I think is the main thing there. So I do agree there.
But see, it's interesting though, because when you look at Nintendo, when you look at Isle of Berk, when you look at Harry Potter, those lands are constantly packed. And Dark Universe isn't. So I get why they're doing that. I understand why they want to expand. And quite frankly, I'm going to be honest with you. And Jared, you've reported on this many, many times. Vash, I'm sure you have too. The one thing that Epic Universe is lacking is indoor attractions. Because when the weather permits, half the park shuts down. So it almost makes sense.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Completely agree, and I think anything out of this park will definitely help, especially this land as well. So I'm sure there's be more. I was told the construction on this will start later this year, wait. We'll see. And supposedly it's supposed to start at the same time as the Ministry of Magic expansion, which apparently that was delayed as well. So who knows? But they might start at the same time. Put it that way. But real quick, if you guys let's talk about Disneyland. I'm gonna go say goodnight to my kids real quick, and since I don't know Disneyland anyways, I'll let you guys take care of Disneyland because I would just be a spectator anyways, and then I will be right back. So whichever one you guys want to hit, we can talk about that next.
I promise I won't burn the place down when you're gone, Jared.
Listen, if I'm in charge, there's always a risk of it burning down, so it's no worries on my end. But I'll be right back.
All right, sounds like a plan. Let's do it. Okay, you sent it to me in the private chat. We're doing the AP.
Where do we want to start?
Let's do the you know what? Let's talk Garden Grove. Let's talk the
let's
tank
do that.
thing. Let's do
You
that.
got it.
Let's do it.
I got an article for you right here.
Perfect. Everybody, let's talk about this. This is kind of crazy. And it looks like it's starting to wind down a little bit. Let me pull up my screen. Okay. So this was a wild. Oh, give me 1 second here. I don't know. I'm getting a little bit of a lag. Okay, there we go. This is of KTLA 5. All evacuation orders lifted for residents near Chemical Tank in Garden Grove. It says all evacuation orders were lifted on Tuesday night after authorities confirmed that the threat of an explosion from a leaking chemical tank in Garden Grove was eliminated. The Orange County Fire Authority said no threat of fire, explosion, or risk to the public. Means as crews continued monitoring the tanks at the GKN Aerospace facility on Western Avenue. Now, to put this in perspective, everybody, this facility is what, Vash? I mean, less than a mile probably, or maybe a couple miles from Knott's, and we're talking maybe 7 or 8 miles to Disneyland. I mean, it's very close. If this thing would have went up, now look, the explosion obviously only impacts the immediate area, right?
Yeah,
but we don't know. I mean, that crap gets in the air.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, it's going to hit these parks. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm out here in the San Fernando Valley, and there'll be a fire, 25, 30 miles, and we'll get the smoke and everything, right? That stuff would travel. So it's a huge sigh of relief that the officials were able to get that pressure in that tank under control, bring that temperature down, and avoid. This would have been a major crisis. Go ahead, Vash.
Absolutely, no question about that. That's why I was watching it so very closely, because it was within proximity of our favorite parks in the OC, right? With Disneyland right there. I think it was actually like 5 miles away from that, and then maybe like a mile down the road from Knott's Berry Farm. What you were looking at is you were looking at this large tank of methacrylate, which is basically, think of it as kind of an adhesive, right? And so there was a small leak in which it let in air and allowed that chemical to actually cure. Think of it like glue out of a glue stick, right? And when you expose the air, obviously it's going to cure. And now you can't actually use that glue anymore because, well, you know what? It's exposed to air and that's it. The problem is that with this specific chemical, with this amount, it actually creates a lot of heat. And usually you have a regulatory system that actually cools it down, a refrigeration system. That did not work. And the ability to actually neutralize that from within via the hookup, well, all of those were gummed up. So now it's like, oh my gosh, we can't actually stop this curing process from actually happening. We can't cool it down, and we can't neutralize it. This is very, very bad. And so that's where you have the situation in which you have 50,000 people surrounding this facility actually have to be evacuated from it, because like OG beautifully pointed out right there, if you have these vapors which are extremely toxic into the air, who knows where that's going to be. And the officials were most concerned about what is called a BLEVE, or a boiling liquid expanding vapor explosion right there. And so, with that, who knows where this thing could actually end up? Obviously within proximity of Knott's Berry Farm and Disneyland, who knows? Fortunately, that was averted right there. It's interesting. This thing popped up on Thursday, and it just took over the entire news cycle all through the weekend and so forth. It was on ABC News and all of that. But they were dousing this with constant fire hose water, right, in order to cool this down, hopefully. But that temperature kept on rising. And then it was like, okay, well, this temperature gauge only goes up to 100 degrees. And then it actually got past that point. And it's like, who knows where this is actually going to go? Okay. Something did occur that was very, very good, though. I believe around Monday-ish, Monday, they noticed a crack. Yes. A pretty large crack in that tank that relieved that pressure. They were able to undergo a kind of all-night mission right there, confirm that the crack was actually in place, and confirm that it was actually off, letting some of that pressure from that tank in order to avoid the worst scenarios, which is very, very good. We got a couple of days of officials checking in on it, monitoring it, and slowly but surely those evacuation orders started to rescind. 50,000, 40,000, I think. Right before they rescinded it entirely, it was down to 13, 12,000 or so, which is very good. Unfortunately, a lot of information was coming out very consistently. A lot of people had, theories, ideas, all kinds of stuff, which added into a lot of confusion, which was very unfortunate. But you got to think, 50,000 in this area, that affected, I'm sure, Disney cast members, surely Knott's Berry Farm team members, and so that's why it was, at the heart of it, almost like a theme park story as well as it was a community story. I think Barry Place 28 was affected by this. I think he was streaming in Knott's Berry Farm when this was kicking off, and it's like, oh, I got to end my stream because, the area in which I live might be affected by this. I know a lot of people who I know kind of live around this area. They were displaced for a period of time right here. So it was a big, big deal. You had Disney and Knott's actually coming out and saying, hey, look, listen, we are monitoring the situation. Obviously, we'll update anybody if anything actually does happen. And so this was a huge deal taking place over a number of days right here. Well, everybody was hoping for the best outcome, and it looks like they had. Fortunately, with that leak actually exposed right there, temperatures not only started to drop, but they actually start to stabilize, drop further, even without water being constantly pumped onto it. And that's why they were able to say, okay, we can actually have everybody back in. It's an active situation. They're still trying to see what they can actually do with this chemical right there. But I will say, guys, what kind of frustrates me about this is, if you look at the history of this GKN, they create like this these aerospace parts, specializing in like windshields or cockpit windshields and so forth for the aeronautical industry. And a lot of people didn't actually know that these very toxic chemicals were in their backyard, right? This kind of industrial little park in the middle of this neighborhood, which we know if you ever travel in Anaheim or Garden Grove, that kind of happens right there with those zonings. But nobody knew that this was even a threat at all or whatever. And I believe if you look at the history of violations here with this company, this goes back to 2020, 2021 or so. They actually settled for $1 million with one of the air resources boards out there in California for violations. It just reminds me, OG, and I'm gonna dig in a little bit here. We just saw. Look, I'll keep this as apolitical as possible, but we just saw Disney have to pay $56,000 for towards an air resources board because of lawnmower engine parts. And it's just like that obviously those Autopia attractions have been running nonstop since 55 practically, right? And it's like, okay, you're gonna find them $56,000 for 125 violations because they didn't exactly mark the parts that were actually coming into import, and they were obviously when asked it was like, okay, hey look, listen, we messed up here, still fined whatever. You find this company $1 million, this happens, and it's like, come on, like what do you do? Like I guess what I'm saying is like, where's the priority out there in this part of the country, right?
I know. Vash, clearly Autopia ripped a hole in the ozone layer. It was just too much.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, now we gotta hammer it down, and we're gonna make them convert to electric for this classic attraction that's been out there for forever. It's kind of like, guys, like, how do you have something like that happen and have something like this happen under your noses? This should have never been the case. This company has been fined for multiple repeat violations right there. And obviously, there's going to be lawsuits filed against them. There's no question.
Yeah. There already is. 70. Right. I read this morning, 70 lawsuits.
Oh, I believe it.
So
now we have not too far from kind of far from where I'm at, but not too far from where I'm at. There was an old Rocketdyne facility.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was called the Santa Susana test field or something like that. Anyway, years and years ago, back in like the 50s, they were testing like nuclear stuff and all this crazy stuff, right? They had a meltdown years ago and they shut it down. To this day, the residents of that like 7-mile radius are still fighting to get that thing cleaned up. And it's in the table water, it's in the ground soil, whatever. It's crazy to me. And the cancer rates are way higher in the surrounding neighborhoods, right? But like you were saying, Vash, we got to make sure Autopia has electric vehicles, right?
You see, that this is what irritated me. And we had a couple of ecological crises in the Southern California area during this kind of a very hectic Memorial Day weekend for the Southern California region. It's like, how did this not get dealt with? And yet, we're saying to Disneyland, it's like, you have to convert to electric. I don't know. I don't quite understand. It's insane. Obviously, JKN will be taking the task, it looks like, and good luck with that. But Vinton Solers actually comes in here with $10. Thank you so much for bringing this up, OG. That was 4 miles from my home, Buena Park. It was crazy. My aunt had to evacuate to my house 8 miles from Disneyland. Vinton actually goes on to say they get away with it because they serve service, the military, unfortunately, and I'm for the military, but that's why they got turned away with all they got away with. Yeah, like, we heard that they had to bring the National Guard in order to deal with the looting threats that actually occurred from these evacuations. I mean, it was a lot. And my heart goes out to every single person in Garden Grove affected by this. This shouldn't have happened at all. This was a horrible situation for the cast members and team members that were displaced from Knott's Berry Farm and Disneyland. Especially our hearts with you. It was very interesting to watch, for sure.
Well, yeah, and actually, all my respect and love go to that night mission they did to get the visual on that tank.
Yeah,
those guys, the guys and gals who were part of that mission, you could be walking up to that thing, it could blow. You don't know.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Right.
I mean, that is crazy. So all the respect. I mean, there's a lot of people. I mean, we had it here about a year and a half ago with the LA fires and stuff, but these firefighters and these first responders, they put their lives on the line for all of us. So, a lot of times I think we all take it for granted a little bit, right? But
yeah,
they're amazing people. So I just want to give that.
Thank you, Vinton, very much, for sure. Thank you so much. Awesome stuff. And hopefully everybody's back home, back safe. And like OG said, let's go ahead and, crack one open for the fire department and everybody else that was part of getting this thing down there.
Oh yeah. Welcome back, Jared.
So is that thing? Kids are on bed. I think they're pretty good. Is that whole thing like? Are they going to prevent an explosion?
Yeah, I think the threat of an explosion or a levee has been effectively neutralized, which is very, very good. Obviously, there are issues that could actually transpire, like a big leak, for example. It's not out of the realm of possibility, but it's less than likely. I think it's just cleanup at this point and seeing what they can actually do with this material that I believe is fully cured here and how to remove that and everything else.
And then OG was talking about, Jared, if you weren't aware, as of this morning, there are 70 lawsuits against that company. And Vash brought up, what was it? You said 2021, they were fined $1 million for violations?
Yeah, about $900,000 for violations there. So it's kind of like, okay, well, you already settled with a number of violations to actually cure that much. It's kind of like, why wasn't there more oversight here? Why is there so much oversight for Disneyland for Autopia cars? Is what I'm saying. There's so little oversight for something like this, where you have toxic chemicals that could, I don't know, even if they didn't actually pour out into the sky, they could affect the groundwater. They could, do a number of things right there. It's in the middle of a residential area. You'd think that you'd be looking at that a little bit closer than Autopia cars, but said Levy.
Especially what was the place was it in Ohio where they had that chemical spill that
was it Palestine?
Palestine. Yeah, it's like that stuff. I mean, it's once that happens, I mean, you're talking years for that stuff to get fixed. So I'm glad to hear that. Hopefully that thing, because when we were talking about that I think we did a video or a live stream with OG, and then you were like, "Did you hear about this?" Like, I hadn't heard anything about this, but it seemed crazy that this thing was just going to blow at any moment. And you got parks nearby, you got all sorts of stuff. I really hadn't heard much about it. It was kind of a crazy thing.
But see, the one thing that irritates me more than anything, like Vash was saying, because this company creates parts for the Air Force and the military, and there's been kind of oversight on that. It's kind of like now you're trying to justify excuses. There's either a tolerance or there's a zero tolerance.
Right.
It's like, if you have the audacity to sit there and find Disney for Autopia, but yet you find this company almost $1 million years ago, and it's had repeat violations, and you still leads up to this, and obviously, it's a bigger story now, but it's just the mere fact that you're kind of twisting the rules to justify, the products they make for, again, military, aerospace, so on and so on. It's like, why is there all this justification? There's either rules or there's no rules.
Yeah.
I don't understand that logic.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I think that happens a lot when you're talking about bureaucracies and
Too
all that
much
stuff like that. But what's funny enough, I don't think I still have it, but I actually did have a military clearance back in college because I worked in a warehouse where at the time you had the old Middle East war, and they were these kits that fixed Humvees like in the field when something happened. And so to work on those things, you had to go through a whole military screening process, and they had a whole bunch of foreign workers there that couldn't come within, I think it was 30 feet of it. So you had to say a section apart off of it. Yeah. So I remember I had an interview. I had to talk to like a military person. I was like, oh, I was like 22. I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, you can't, like, I couldn't talk about any of the stuff that went on. And I was just like, okay, whatever. But that's my only experience with it. But what's up, Theme Park Philosophy? He said, this debate is basically the chemical plant scene in Superman 3, minus Superman, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Was that the one with Richard Pryor? Was that Superman 3? Or is that 4?
Yes, I think that's right. I think it is.
And then
Richard
4
Pryor
was
in
when he
one.
took on the clone, well, not the clone, but whatever. Yeah, the other super, the super being. Yeah,
Richard Pryor. Yeah,
I still enjoy those movies. Now, although 3 freaked me out as a kid when that woman gets grabbed by the robot or the computer, and she like becomes. I remember that freaked me out as a kid. That gave me nightmares for weeks after that. That and the Christopher Lloyd and Roger Rabbit. Those two scenes as kids, like,
oh, bro, how has Christopher Lloyd looked 80 for 30 years?
I know.
I don't know.
That's older. I think my wife told me, because she's a Back to the Future nut. I think at the age Christopher Lloyd is now is roughly the age he was supposed to be playing in Back to the Future.
Oh,
so they age him up a bit and things like that. But yeah, he was actually really good in was it Nobody? Yeah, it was Nobody with I forget the guy's name. He's a comedy actor, but it's like he played this old grizzled, like, kind of badass in that movie. He was pretty good in it.
Was he in Mandalorian Grogu season 3?
Was he
thinking that?
God, that sounds very familiar.
It does. I think he was, Vash.
I wiped that season out of my brain. So I don't know. I hated it, but I don't remember.
Oh, man, deep cut.
Robert Odenkirk. Yes.
Okay.
Bob Odenkirk. So Christopher Lloyd plays his dad, and there's a cool scene when he's in a nursing home. These guys going to kill him, and Christopher Lloyd handles business. We'll just say it was pretty cool.
Now, Jared, real quick, before we move on, can we talk a little bit, Vash, in the group chat? You were talking about the Coco ride. Should we dip into a little bit of that real quick?
Yeah, sure.
Because it's kind of crazy, this whole thing. I made a tweet. I don't know if you guys saw it, but I don't know. Here's my thing. I mean, okay, so they are basically building this attraction. It's technically Pixar Pier, but it's technically Pixar Pier, but it's kind of off to the side.
Okay,
perfect. It's off to the side a little bit in between the pier, the coaster, and then this boardwalk pizza place, right? And they're kind of cramming it in there. And I made a tweet like, I feel this IP deserves better. I don't know. For me personally, I want to see, like, I don't need like a huge land. I mean, I don't think you need to do a Cars land, right? But it would be nice to have a little area where this attraction and this Mexican village can breathe a little bit. And I just feel like this is going to be going into this area. They barely have enough for the ride. I mean, really, I mean, it looks like a big spot, but when you're building a boat ride, this is not going to be.
No,
I don't know. I think in Grand Fiesta Tour, maybe scale. I don't know, but
I think you had mentioned that before, Vash, that's probably what this ride was going to end up being.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think honestly, I think my theory is that they were going to put Coco in the Grand Fiesta Tour at Epcot. And then it was like, okay, well, we can't necessarily do that for any number of reasons. So let's go ahead and adapt those ideas for a standalone attraction. I think that's kind of where this is all kind of stems from. But OG is exactly right here. It's like the right resort, right park, wrong spot. You know, it's like it's the right ride. It's all working out, and then you get to the spot, and it's so very small. And you can see, we talk about construction umbilicus all the time, right? You're seeing that a little bit right here, in which they had to have this kind of temporary roadway to provide for. I believe, did Jim Michelle actually say that this was a parade road, as well as providing access for maintenance vehicles and so forth? Like, this thing has to cut through here. It's temporary for right now, from what I understand. But it's in the sea of construction, and it's in this very tiny spot right here. It's like, this could be obviously a fantastic attraction, but where it lies right now will hold it back inevitably. I just don't know how you get around that situation. Now, OG, I think you've said it in the past, and I want to go ahead and have you reiterate it here. If they would have moved this up north just a little bit, maybe they would have been better in the long run. I think there is something to be said about that. Now, obviously, the Grand Californian and those views, you have to take that into account. But to your point, getting rid of Goofy Sky School, I think you've said, and some of the other areas around that beer garden area. Go ahead.
No, absolutely. If you get rid of the beer garden area, you get rid of Goofy Sky School, the Corn Dog Castle, all that stuff. That's all filler stuff. That's all placemaker stuff. You can get rid of all that, and you can build a nice Mexican village, and you can have that atmosphere, right? Look at the atmosphere you get going into Rancho del Zolico over there in Frontierland, the Zorro restaurant, right? You walk in there, and they got like the flickering lights, and you feel that atmosphere, that Spanish vibe, right? How are you going to feel that Spanish vibe with the Incredicoaster right in front of it? You know what I'm saying? I feel like it just kind of takes away from the vibe, and I don't know, man. That's the only thing for me, and I'm with you, Vash. This thing could be, the ride itself will probably be really good. I'm sure it'll be great. I just feel like it's just not a great spot for it. If they just moved over just a little bit, I think it would have been better.
I don't think it's going to be as great as it could be, though. That's the most disappointing part. When you're sticking it in this smaller footprint right here, this is a boat ride. How do you even take a turn within this place? It's like that's really the overall problem that I actually have with this. It's like, okay, if this was any other ride system, maybe I can actually see it working within this configuration. Obviously, the Imagineers were able to, utilize the space granted to them by Golden Dreams, which is kind of crazy as the theater show, but they were able to turn that into a very nice omnimover with Little Mermaid. So if you were to change even the ride system itself, it's like, okay, now I can kind of see this. But when you look at the requirements for a boat ride and you are sticking it in this area, I just don't know quite how that works. Again, you have to have you have to have infrastructure for cooling towers and so forth. You have to have water treatment. It's a lot to facilitate something like that, and in this small space I've just not seen that done, especially in the modern era with Imagineering, how they build, how they do today.
Well, now Devlin O'Ryan is saying, already going negative. No, we're not. We're just we're what's the word for
concerned.
It? We're concerned. Exactly.
Yeah, we're concerned.
Vash and I just said literally like just a minute ago that we think it's probably going to be a good ride. You know what I'm saying? But it's just this space. It is very small. It's looking at the space and what they want to do. It raises concerns. Now, if it's amazing, I'll be the first to say it, and so will Vash. But like right now, we're just like kind of scratching our head, going, how are they going to do this? And the location next to the roller coaster doesn't exactly set the tone for that quaint little Mexican village, in my opinion. Go ahead, conductor. I do apologize.
Well, no. I want to reiterate too. Again, it's hard to see it as it lies right now. If we get further concept art at D23, hey, I'll be with these two gentlemen and eat crow and say, nope, I was wrong. But when me and OG did our weekly episode of This Week in Disney News, we reacted to a new content creator on YouTube that's up and coming. He's doing great. And one of his videos was on this. And what he was actually showing is this area particularly would be the village, maybe a sit-down location, maybe a couple quick service, a couple gift shops, maybe a couple meet and greets, and the actual attraction itself would be in the Simba parking lot across the street. That way you give more room and more breathing room. But obviously, I don't think they're going to do that. I wish they would. But for right now, this project, at least for me, this project and Avatar, I have a lot of question marks about, which I'm hoping at D23 they can further clarify that. Because I think right now it's the Disneyland Resort, Bash. I will have to say the Disneyland Resort is like a giant puzzle piece compared to its sister counterpart in Orlando, where they could just stick anything anywhere and say, hey, we're building it. We're not going to have issues. This is the layout. That's it. This is like, it's almost like a mind game. You have to shovel things around to make it work.
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, the blessing of size, right? Where everything's kind of spread out and you can kind of be a little bit more choosy where everything goes, although some decisions that Disney has made in that regard have been a little bit questionable. But we'll see. We'll see how it all ends up in the long run. When it comes to this project right here, you got to think, right? If you have in the release concept art that they've already released already, right? They show the kind of Mexican Village entryway next to the coaster. Now think about it. And whatever's in that entryway, whatever's in that plaza right there, will be in the shadow of an active coaster right there. And if you've ever been by Incredicoaster, it's a lot of sound, and it might take you out of that element right there. So it's just, to me, I just don't know if this was the most ideal location. I kind of agree with OG. Maybe it would have been better to have a little bit more breathing room. Maybe perhaps they want to go ahead and sacrifice an attraction like Goofy Sky School for this, which might seem questionable to us, but obviously you do have a park that's highly deficient in kid-friendly attractions at the moment because of the loss of Bugs Land. Just has been. That's why Monsters, which by the way they're going to lose, is at the wait time that it is, because there's not a lot for kids to do here. So maybe they're looking at that. Maybe they're looking at some things that we don't actually see on the plate right here that would have otherwise informed them of this decision right here. But the right IP, it's the right park, it's the right ride. Everything works. It's just we have some questions about the location. Now, if they do release concept art, like you said, Conductor, and they do provide us a look into some of the issues that we have with this, and it's like, hey, hunky dory, awesome stuff, and maybe they went ahead and stacked this water ride and so forth and got some length out of it. Fantastic, awesome stuff. But that's also wishful thinking.
Yeah. I mean, from the outside looking in, this thing looks incredibly small. I mean, you guys were showing me the overviews the last time we did something. I was like, you're going to put it here? But I mean, I know Disneyland's a different animal compared to Disney World, and I don't know hardly anything about Disneyland. So I even from me just looking at that, I'm like, that's not a lot of space to work with. But
well, no, it's not. And I will say this. I will say this. One thing about Disneyland Resort, because we have always been really limited on space, the Imagineers do come up quite often with really creative workarounds. They do. We didn't really lose anything for Galaxy's Edge. We added 15 acres to Disneyland and lost a petting zoo and a barbecue spot. I mean, it was crazy. Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railway, they built it behind Toontown. I don't know how they did that, but I guess they got rid of a costume thing or something, warehouse. Yeah. They have ways of really maneuvering out here because they have to. This thing could be an absolute banger. And I remember, and I say this all the time, and Peter always makes fun of me, but a lot of the cool elements we have, like the stretching room and the cool queue area for Indiana Jones, is out of the necessity, right, to get under the berm. Yeah. So sometimes Disney does knock it out of the park when they have to work around these physical limitations, right? So this thing could be an example of that, Devlin's like, so we're not trying to be negative. We're just saying we're concerned about it, because we really want this thing to be a home run. This is a great IP. It's a beautiful culture. I just want them to do right by it. That's all.
Well, especially, because me and OG have talked about this numerous of times. DCA only sits feet, and I mean feet, away from Walt's original Magic Kingdom. And DCA has always kind of felt to me, maybe even the OG himself, I'll let him say his piece on it, but to me it always kind of felt like DCA was the stepchild of Disney for the parks. So we just have a lot of passion when it comes to this Coco attraction. We have a lot of passion when it comes to the Avatar experience that they won't call land. We have a passion for these things because we want to see the best come out of it, even though we have doubts and concerns about it. But we want to see the best for it.
Well, especially in a time period where you are seeing the parks maybe listen to more guest feedback than they were in previous years. And so like voicing, this is my whole thing. People get upset if you're like, you feel like quote negative, but if you have opinions on something and you have concerns, there's nothing wrong with talking about them and saying, hey, like, I don't know how this thing's going to work. And I can say that about numerous things. Sometimes it works and you're like, oh, they figured it out. And sometimes it was a valid concern the entire time. So I think it's just, part of what goes into fandom is looking at this stuff. It's the same thing with sports talk radio. If you hear anybody on sports talk radio, these people calling in, you'd be like, oh, you must hate your team. These people love their team. They just think that there's better ways to go about making a better team. Right. And this also goes into fandom, which means it's fanatic. So, I mean, you get people that get obsessed with this stuff. So it's like, I have no problem with, especially things in concept range, which is like, I had the same thing with Villains Land. When I saw the concept art, I was like, there's no way they're going to do that. There's no way that Villains Land concept art is what the final product is going to be, just unless they prove me wrong because of all the intricacies of that, and typically how Disney is with concept art as well. But
I will say this. I will say this too. I mean, it's funny because I was like not even 2 days ago on Twitter, I was called a shill who was coping because I brought up the low budget for Mando and Grogu, right? And that wasn't even my opinion. That's really, it has a lower budget. It was cheaper than a lot of Pixar movies. And then now you're too negative, OG. It's like, you just can't win. And you just gotta say how you feel. And some, it is what it is. But I do want to thank Vinton for gifting 2 OG55 memberships. I appreciate you, Vinton. You're awesome. And Hudson here says Josh set expectations on the level of Pirates. He did, Hudson. He got on that D23 stage and he said this Coco ride. Remember, Vash? He said this Coco ride is going to be a pirate style attraction. When you say that, that's a high bar, brother.
You cannot say the word pirates and elicit anything less than amazing. And that's why they use that language. Okay, well, that's the bar. That's the bar. So now we have to go ahead and, from a fan's perspective, look at this and say, is this achievable? Yeah. To be honest, look at go ahead.
Bob Iger would say Pirates is really not that impressive.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that? I remember that.
That's true. That's a good point right there.
Talk about unforced errors of just doing something and being like, it's really not that impressive. And you're like, why would you say it? Like, if you think it, just think it. Like, you don't have to say it.
Oh my God.
He just couldn't help himself.
I'm not a psychologist, right? And I'm not trying to diagnose anybody. I'm not.
You do have the card then to wear if you want to play that role.
I do have a cardigan, so I have some authority on this topic of Bob Iger. so I'm thinking he's on the narcissistic spectrum, almost certainly.
No,
I know. Call me crazy.
Remember, my old name, OG, was Dr. Dre, and as a doctor, I would say your analysis is accurate, to say the least.
100%. Yeah, I remember back in you were the Dr. Dre. You were my lawyer, my producer.
That's right.
Yeah, man of many hats.
Whatever you need in the moment, you got to handle. Oh my God. I remember we covered that whole interview, and as he's talking, I'm just like, why would you say any of this right now? Like, and I think what he meant, to be fair to Bob, I think what Bob was trying to elicit in a very Neanderthal way was, it's a simple ride that has it's a good example of storytelling simplicity. I understand what he was going for, but the words that came out of his mouth were not that. You're just like, which is funny because I don't think Josh would do the same thing.
No,
like I think Bob.
No,
I always thought Bob was bad in front of a camera. I never thought he feels comfortable. If you got him in a room full of people that were not in his tax bracket, as you said before, OG, he's gonna be like, I just want to get out of here.
Much.
Josh can mingle. And I think he's more observant in that way. But anytime Bob would get in front of a camera, you're like, well, what's he? Because sometimes in those earnings calls, he would say stuff that investors didn't like either.
Yeah,
And-
exactly.
Yeah, Bob's at Disneyland, and he's just thinking, God, I wish I was at Jeffrey's in Malibu right now.
Yeah, probably 100%.
I wish I was giving notes to John Favreau on his latest movie, and I'm stuck here looking at this theme park.
Jeez. Yeah. no
I mean,
kidding.
yeah, and Sean's not wrong there about a CEO with an ego. I mean, who would have ever thought CEOs would have massive ego complexes or anything of that nature?
Exactly.
Attention freaks, they love it. All these CEOs love it. It's very rare to find people in that space, that CEO sphere. I mean, you kind of have to be to climb the ladder, right? I guess.
Yeah.
That's the thing about when you get into the corporate structure is the people that tend to move up are people that play the game.
Yeah.
And it's not always people that are necessarily like the most qualified. And so then you get people like, I don't know, like a Bob Chapek that's like in a position that they've been there for a long time. But it's like, and there's also the whole thing about people are good in certain roles and you give them promotion and that's above their ability. And I think, I think, I don't know. I never thought Bob Iger having his roots as a weatherman was like the greatest CEO in the world. That's just I think he's bought some stuff that how it was treated after they bought it. You could, I think there's some very questionable decisions there, but yeah,
sure.
I don't know. Bob is, I'm not sad to see him go.
I think Bob actually did a really, really good job up until the pandy.
Yes.
When the pandemic hit, I gotta call it the pandemic. When I say pandy, everyone gets mad.
People do get mad at you about that.
Every time I call it the pandy, everyone gets all mad. The pandemic. I think after the pandemic, when he did the whole Chapek game, I think he started going down. But before that, though, I mean, he bought Pixar, which actually for that time was really smart because Michael Eisner and Pixar were not getting along. They were this close to losing that
big risk
Pixar
as well.
Yeah.
Big risk
Yep.
as well. Very risky.
Yeah.
It was exactly. And he bought Marvel, and that whole thing was a huge success up until Endgame. And I think he made some good moves. I just think after that pandemic, I don't know what happened. He lost his mojo.
I mean, for as legacy focused as he has been, his legacy would be much more intact if he did not come back and oust Chapek and that whole thing. He would still, I think he would be looked at much more favorably, especially with Chapek in there, than him coming back and doing all the meddling and all the stuff he did.
That's
Oh,
true.
really?
100%.
I kind of feel that he should have, he was thinking about getting out around the opening of Shanghai Disneyland, which would have been in 2016. That probably would have been ideal. Because remember, like, even Star Wars, like, having the mandate, we got to produce, like, one a year, that didn't set up for success either. And so they were already starting to show signs of, like, maybe he's getting out of control here. Maybe we got to move past him. But honestly, you couldn't, right? I mean, everything was up, everything was going great, everything was fantastic. There's no signs of that. But now looking back, it's like, probably should have cut out early.
Yeah.
Remember when? I don't know, Ryan. I'm wondering if you're the guy.
I was going to bring this one up too. Yeah.
Yeah, because someone DM'd me on Twitter years ago and said I was in the elevator at the Grand Cali with Bob and Josh Giamaro. Is that you, Ryan? Did you hit me up on Twitter like 3 or 4 years ago? Because I remember that DM.
That's
And I was
dope.
like, that's wild. And I told you guys about this. I think in one of the live shows
I
recently,
remember
right?
that. Yeah. Ryan here says, I've ran into both Bob and Josh a few times at GCH. Bob is awkward as hell, especially in the elevator. Josh definitely can be a regular guy and was increasingly kind to the maids as we passed them. I will say this. I've known cast members. They all love Josh tomorrow.
Yeah,
Like,
Josh knows how to socialize.
They love him. And like I told you guys before, I've talked to him. I remember Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railway opening day. That guy has an ability to, when he's talking to you, it's like you are the only person that we are having a conversation. It's just you and I, and you're just like, this dude.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Eye contact, but not too much.
Like, if it lingers, you're like, what's going on here, Josh? Like,
you
be with my family, for God's sakes, Josh. I mean,
yeah. No, but I will say this too, in terms of like him being really respectful to the service workers and the housekeepers and what have you. I think that's awesome. Because that's actually a big indicator of someone's character. When I'm at a restaurant and I see someone like giving the waitress a hard time and stuff, like unnecessarily, I'm like, okay, that's a scummy person, That's a big like red flag for me personally. Or like in the drive-through and you see the person in front of you like screaming and yelling at the worker. It's like, come on, it's a minimum wage job, like layoff. You know what I'm saying? So
And also,
the fact,
don't yell at people that touch your food. That's a really bad idea.
well, yeah, exactly. That too.
This is not a good idea. We do have a 5-year from Philip meets K-Fam. I think I got that right. 1186 for $5. Thank you, Philip. He says, do you think Express is permanently gone from Hagrid's or coming back in a different way in the future? Like we said earlier, I think it comes back. I mean, it eventually off of it will lag for whether that's just out of age alone or that there's other things that open. You've got, Pokemon coming to Lost Continent. You've got the Fast and Furious coaster in the other park. I have a feeling there's going to be something else maybe announced for Islands if I were to guess. So I think you probably see it back on Express Pass within, I think, easily 5 years, but probably you're talking 2-3 years maybe. It'll make its way back. And somebody
also have
ask,
Express now, right?
yes. Well, and somebody asked earlier, it was MN Stars 5. It says, do you think Universal is going to eventually get rid of the unlimited Express for the premier hotel guest? I don't, because of the contract, which actually the question about the Express now is they have that contract with Lowe's with those 3 hotels that have that. I believe they renewed that sometime in the recent past, and I don't know how long it's for, but it's pretty ironclad. So I don't think you're going to see that go anywhere. Now, I don't think it expands to other hotels, though. Like, I don't think Helios is ever going to get it and things like that. So I think it's going to be at those 3 hotels. Excuse me, even as in the future, as Universal builds more hotels, I don't think it's going to be tied to the Express Pass as part of it. Unless they amend that contract, which they could. But as it stands now, I don't know if they will do that. And we do have a 10 here as well from PR Burke 1. Thank you. I said, what inspired each of you to care about Disney in the first place? For me, it was Walt's balance of past and futurism and the attention to detail, monorails, trains, and water bridges all together.
That's a great question.
I'll say for me, it was my wife. I went to Disney once as a kid. I was in 8th grade. I liked Universal more at the time, but I was like, my brother and I kind of aged out of the whole little kid Disney stuff.
Yeah.
My wife has been going to Disney her entire life, and she kind of hid it from me a little bit while we were like dating and engaged. And then she got, the first time I went there as an adult really was she got a bonus. She was managing a student housing project, and he wanted to pay for her to go on a vacation. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, I thought we were going to go to like some, all inclusive resort or something. And she was like, I want to go to Disney. And I was like, okay, like I got no say in this. So we stayed at like All-Star Movies, and I was like, it was a lot of fun. Like, you stayed there, it was all planned out. And then we went a second time, I think it was for our 5th anniversary, because I was like, well, we had a good time. Let's just go back and do that. And then after that, I was like, okay, this is really fun. Because I'd never seen that side of a theme park where you're staying on property, like you're doing all this stuff, you're in the bubble. Yeah. I was like, this is pretty cool. And then eventually that became more, you get involving Universal as well. And then once I got into Disney, then I studied a lot more about Walt. And I love the history of Walt and how it basically was like impossible for him to do what he did. I mean, there's really no reason as to why any of this worked. I mean, the feedback he got, this dude should have stopped decades before, but he just kept going. And so it kind of evolved from there, but I will give my wife full credit for me getting involved at all into theme parks was solely because of her.
My story actually didn't even start with the theme parks. I'm at an age where when I was young, like preteen probably, that whole Renaissance era of animation was coming out, and I just fell in love with all that stuff. The animation part of it, the Lion King and Beauty and the Beast, all that stuff. And I got into drawing. I went to art school for a while. So that got me into Disney. And then once I was into the animation, the theme parks it was a spillover from the animation. And that era too was just like bananas, you guys. With Michael Eisner, he was just going nuts. The animation, they were dropping banger after banger in the animation thing. They were expanding Disney World like crazy. Disneyland got Indiana Jones, and it was just a wild time to be alive. And that cemented my fandom for me. What about you, Vash? We'll go to conductor.
Yeah, no, look, 21 years ago, it was the 50th anniversary celebration at Disneyland. That really is where my genesis kind of started, because I had been going to Disneyland on an annual basis for a while, but like you, it's like I was always kind of
Sorry, that was an accident.
There you go. You see, I mean, it's the cry of the eagle sung to me.
Oh God.
I thought it fits. Sorry.
There you go. Sorry, Bash. I do apologize. That was an accident.
No, you're fine. But really, I've been going to Disney on an annual basis, and like you, Jared, I was kind of more of a Universal fan. And then with that 50th anniversary, and specifically, it was one cast member who said, "You know what? If you like the history here, because there was a model that was actually built that pretty much reproduced what Disneyland looked like 50 years ago. It was kind of remarkable to see. And I was like, oh my goodness gracious, so many things built up over that time. It was quite wild to see. And it's like, look, if you want to track this history, go down to the magic shop there. There's a Disney treasures tin right there that has secret stories and magic. You want to go ahead and check that out. And it was from that it was like, okay, that was my first foray into the unique history of Disneyland. And it was like, I could not get enough. And so going over the history of Disneyland, then going over history of theme parks in general and so forth, it just kind of builds out from there. And so I've been kind of covering Disney off and on for a little over 20 years now. And so that's where my genesis was. It was really the history, and obviously that connection with Walt and all of that got me into this. Please, conductor, go ahead.
So for mine, I kind of follow the story as of OG. I kind of grew up in that era where you're watching. For me, I was watching Disney Channel. I was watching all these amazing Disney movies back in the day. Then how I kind of justify going into the park was a lot of great memories with my family, my dad especially, because my dad is a collector of all sorts of things: Olympic memorabilia, baseball memorabilia, sports memorabilia, and that kind of got me into it a little bit, because there's been a lot of great things that the Disney company has come out with. Just, what they've done over 71 years is just phenomenal. And then I think it was my first field trip to Disneyland, like for school. It was back in, oh my God, seventh grade. So I was in middle school, and one of the things we did was the Walt tour. Walk in his apartment, learn the whole backstory, and that kind of jump started it for me, learning about Walt's history. Then I got the curiosity of watching like Disney Channel specials about the history of Disney. Then it jumped to I'm trying to think, when YouTube started kicking off, I started watching videos on just Disney history. I started going to the library, reading books about Disney. So it kind of was an educational thing for me before I started really covering the theme parks. And one of the things I love doing, one of the things I have to do every single time I go to Disneyland, it's a tradition. When I walk on Main Street, I walk into the museum. That's the first thing I do. Believe it or not, I walk in the museum. I look at the wonderful artwork from all these wonderful animators at the studios. I look at since they still have it up, all the history, the concept art for what Disneyland was, the drawings. And then, once in a while when I want to get inspirational about content or something like that, I'll revert back to I'm trying to think of the word I'm looking for. The little movie they put on for how they built Disneyland, and kind of get inspirational like that. And it's funny, as a grown man, some of that stuff, watching it at the right moment, it makes you tear up.
Yeah.
Because just the level of sacrifice Walt did to make this happen was just phenomenal. You would never see that in your life ever again. You would never ever see someone do that, because he literally came here with nothing.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, nothing. He lost the rights to, what was it? Oswald, which I love Oswald. If anything, literally, my two favorite original characters of all time, Oswald, Steamboat Willie. Always will be, always have been.
We need a conductor. If they can fit it, I don't care where they put it, but on Buena Vista Street somewhere at DCA, we have to get an Oswald floral similar to that of the Mickey one at Disneyland. Obviously not the same size, but that would be sick, bro.
Oh, good. Oh,
Yeah.
it'd be my new backdrop for sure.
My whole come circle moment for Disney was as when we were there and I was in 8th grade. I remember seeing the boardwalk and I was like, people stay here? Like, oh my gosh. We went, it was like we were bringing sandwiches in, like we were saying like Motel 8s, like we did not stay on property.
Oh,
and then when I finally got to stay at the boardwalk as an adult, I was like, I made it. I got to stay in the place as a kid I wanted to stay at. I've always loved the boardwalk since I was a kid, but it's interesting how all that stuff happens. And then last one, we got one more super chat here from Philip again for 5. Said, could you see the newer rides even with the unlimited express pass? It's a one-time only for those rides for express. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they can change it because of that contract. I actually get the impression
ties them up.
Yeah, a lot of that contract kind of locks them up there. And that's my question too about can they offer Hagrid's as a single rider thing if it's not on the express pass lineup? I don't know the answer to that. I've heard that being speculated. I think Tom Bricker even was speculating that may be the case, but I don't know of anybody that knows definitively what that is. But sure. I don't really think they're going to change much with express pass. I just think this is a very unique situation with Hagrid's where you got insane demand, the IP, the capacity of the park, the capacity of this ride, and it was just like, okay, like let's just put the brakes on this, then ship it back. So
just not the mix.
Yep. So, go ahead, conductor.
I was just gonna say, if we can bring up one more story when we catch up on the comments, is I really kind of want to get your guys' opinion about what Disney announced for Disneyland for Magic Key holders. But go ahead, Jared.
Oh yeah, we can go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Jared.
No, I was just finishing on that point there. Do you guys want to hit that? You want to hit it next? We can hit it real quick. We'll try and keep these. Let's do it. Let's do it pretty quickly. Get out of here within like a little bit.
Rapid speed.
Mm-hmm.
You guys have a link for that?
I do. I believe who has that? That was
while Vash is getting that.
IQ.
Yeah, Theme Park IQ. While Vash is getting that, John Make It Rain says he hopes that Josh makes some wild announcements at D23. Conductor and I will be there, boots on the ground, this D23. Yeah. That's going to be interesting. I don't think there's going to be wild announcements though. I think there's going to be
a lot of updates. A lot of updates.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, I agree. If I were to guess, although he may want to make a splash, given his first one, he may have something up his sleeve.
Maybe.
You never know.
But okay, links right there.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you, Vash. This from Theme Park IQ says new Disneyland Magic Key renewals between May 27th and May 26th of 2027 now include a Disney dining card. If you're in the Inspire level, you get $100, Believe $75, Explore $50, and Imagine $25.
And I want to bring this up because I don't think I've ever seen Disney do this. I think this is the first time I've ever seen this. And someone actually made a comment earlier when this was posted and said, instead of giving us a dining gift card, why don't you just knock off the amount of money for our Magic Key? Why are you giving us a dining card?
Well, there's a reason for that, because previously they did actually in the history of the annual pass holder program. In years past, they actually would discount slightly. I mean, very slightly, like 5% or maybe at max 10%. But that was years ago. If you renewed, and that was the way to incentivize you to actually renew your pass. And the reason why they're doing a dining card is, well, that's internal Disney currency, right? How they actually total up those revenues. I don't know if they're still doing that, but it's kind of interesting. Rather than making less money off of it, they're giving you a new way to spend potentially more money, and that's kind of why they're actually doing this. But incentivization to get a Magic Key, I don't think they've ever done that in the Magic Key era, which makes this very unique. We also saw, and I provide you another link there, Jared, if you want to go ahead and bring that up, we saw the calendar actually be wide open for the remaining month of May, obviously. But I mean, if you look at June, if you look at July, if you look at August, it is wide open. I don't even think there's a Saturday selected, which if you've been keeping track of this, and Jared, you might not be too familiar, but usually those Saturdays are gone for weeks on end. And in this case, they're actually wide open. So it would seem to be me that they have heard the feedback from pass holders in that it's like, look, listen, I want to get out of the system. I can't get reservations and so forth. This is, laborious and all of that. But what have we seen? We've seen the ability to actually make your reservations within the app, right? That was actually debuted for the first time in 6 years. You can actually make reservations within the app without actually going to an external like web portal or whatever. That was just included, and that was just a couple of weeks ago. Now we're seeing this incentivization package. Now we're seeing, these buckets actually be accrued maybe slightly more in the pass holder's direction. It's all of this incentivization to get you to come in and actually stay a Magic Key holder. I think they did have a little bit of attrition here, which is why they might be doing this. I think there were some people who were saying, you know what, I'm out. Because honestly, when you look at Disneyland Resort, it's going to take a few years for Avengers Campus and those attractions, Infinity Defense and Stark Flight Lab, Coco and Avatar to actually crop up, right? It's going to take a while for those things to open. So it's like, why would I necessarily buy into this park right now, especially with so many friction points that exist? What did Disney do? They eliminated some of those friction points, and now they're incentivizing you to actually stay. We'll see if it works, but it's very interesting to see all this.
It is. And Conductor, we did a video the other day. We got some heat for it, but that's okay, right? We did a video the other day, and one of the things I mentioned in that video was the importance of voting with your wallet, right? Yeah. And I said in that video, like I was born and raised in Southern California. I've been on these rides a bajillion and a half times, right? What's the incentive, even for someone like me? Like I've been going to Disney less like the past year or two than I ever have because there's nothing new. I mean, you get the Mando switch over and stuff, but we haven't had a new ride though since Tiana's. And Tiana's wasn't even really a fully new ride. It was a retheme.
Yeah.
So there's not a whole lot of there. And it's like, am I really going to spend the money to go to this thing where I've done all the experiences a million times? I personally I'm closer to Universal, and Universal hasn't really had a whole lot of new either, to be fair. But for me, it's new because I never used to go that much. You know what I'm saying? So it's, but yeah, I mean, I think people are pulling back to your point, Vash. I think they are.
It's kind of similar. They also added the whole reservation stuff for Disney World at the same time they added for the Magic Key holders for Disneyland. Now you can do that inside the app too, which means none of that's going away anytime soon, unfortunately. But we also saw them do similar. They had a period there where they were trying to incentivize people to get more Disney World annual passes, and they weren't giving you a discount. They were lowering the amount of the down payment due, but the total amount stayed the same. And I think you're seeing it's a good microcosm probably, and I've alluded to this, of like, what does Disney do if they hit a point where these day ticket prices have gone above what people are willing to pay? This is what they would do. They're not going to lower the price. They're going to try and do other levers to incentivize you to still come, because they don't want the optics probably being like, okay, we're discounting annual passes by 10% or something like that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Conductor, please.
No. I was just going to say, I was going to agree with what you said, Vash, about the dining pass or the dining gift card. It incentivizes you as the consumer to use it in the parks and spend more money on top of it instead of giving you a discount for the Magic Key. So it makes sense on the direction they're going. I just find it interesting that we're only months away from D23, and there's been all this kind of, I correct me if I'm wrong, but kind of like back and forth online with the project with Coco, the project with Avatar, the stuff going on in downtown Disney, the fact that there's really nothing new. Like OG said, the last time we got anything really new, and it wasn't even that new. It was a reskin, which was Tiana's. Then we have this Mandalorian Grogu overlay of basically the same attraction with the new overlay. It's like, what is incentivizing people to get them down there? But now this is Disney's response to that. Then you have, actually, believe it or not the gloat, but on my birthday, they're dropping the park hopper rule. This could lead into other things. So I see Disney trying to brainstorm these ideas, but it's just like, okay, that's great. Operationally, you're trying to make things better, but what brand new stuff am I going to see by renewing my magic key that's going to keep me interested? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
I do wonder too if there's some more macro issues going on here. Perhaps they're looking at the economy. They're looking at the Southern California market and saying like, okay, well, what will it take for people to stay on with rising gas prices, with higher inflation, with a higher cost of living here? Because obviously, I mean, this, if you're paying $2,000 a year for a pass, it's pretty easy to say, you know what, we're not going to do it. So maybe they're actually looking at those as well, looking at the levers to see what they can pull. Like you said, Conductor Jared, what would that look like? I think we're kind of seeing that. We also haven't seen them actually turn off magic keys for a little while, which I thought was very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Perhaps they're leaning on the pass holders for the summer season, which is why we see so much availability right here. They want to keep people on the system. Going to be interesting to see what happens at the later point in summer, around that D23 period right there. Remember, August, September, July-ish is when they kind of start shutting that off in preparation for the holiday season.
Mm-hmm.
Do they do that this year? Not sure, but that's going to be very interesting to watch as well.
Yeah,
definitely. And
Yeah.
I do find it interesting when Jared brought up the calendars from Theme Park IQ. The one date I thought would not be available in August is still available, which is D23 day, which I find very, very, very interesting because usually that day's gone. So it's like, okay, that's a little bit of a question mark itself.
Well, all of this is kind of interesting too with the timing, right? Like, because I think in June, that whole like 11 a.m. thing is going away, right?
Yeah, on
So,
the 9th.
Yeah, so it just seems interesting how they're just really making a lot of changes. So I don't know.
More incentivization.
It's what? I'm sorry?
More incentivization.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Now, I do want to bring up one comment. We woke up whatever works as child.
Oh no.
So I think we're gonna switch to ASMR mode, everybody. And we'll whisper so we can get the kiddo back to bed.
I'll be like a pilot.
Be like, if you guys are wondering what,
Just start talking really. I won't though. Well, hopefully your child went back to sleep. That's terrible. Maybe turn the TV down. But
Sorry,
but whatever. Yeah. ASMR creeps me out. I'm not gonna lie. If I hear ASMR, I'm always like, it's the same thing when you hear the influencers. They do that. I don't know why. But when influencers do this thing, it enrages me. I don't know why. It'll just be someone be like, I got a new product, and I'm like, I hate you with every fiber in my being at the moment. I don't know why it enrages me so much, but the same thing is like when you get those videos, they're like, I went to Disney the other day. I'm like, just speak into the microphone. Like, why are you whispering? Like, it's a secret. I don't like. If you tell me a secret, I have to try and that's too much pressure. I don't do that. That's it's too much on me. But
it is kind of a weird. Would you call it a genre? I guess.
Yeah, it's definitely
I don't get it. I don't know. I don't really get it. But you're right. This noise, whenever they do the old, the tapping, it's like, oh man. Like I can understand some of the stuff maybe, but like the tapping is annoying.
Yeah. If I ever do that, feel free to just flame me. Just be like, you hypocritic son of a gun. I'd be like, fair enough. I'm waiting. I'm watching all of it.
It won't be in front of your viewers, but your private chat will blow up.
Oh, you can do it for the listen. You can call me out publicly if you'd like. It's totally cool. If I do it, you let me know. But we are up over the 2-hour mark here. It's been a really good show. We had a ton of stuff to talk about. We actually left a lot on the table. So maybe next week we'll get to some of these stories, or there'll probably be some new stuff that pops up next week. But we are going to get out of here because it's getting close to my bedtime out here, and I'm looking forward to eating some food and going to bed. But before we get out of here, first off, I want to say thank you to the chat. You guys have been awesome.
Yes.
Thank you for the super chats and the memberships and just the interaction. I got Juliet that started out, Voot, Kiki and Luca, Longrua, Benton Solar, Philip had a few super chats, PR Burke. So thank you guys very much for your support and interaction tonight. Before we get out of here, let everybody know where they can catch you guys. If you're watching on another channel, you can catch me at Captain Magic. That's where I do daily videos. If you're looking for Disney World and Universal Studios Orlando information specifically, you can go check out CTM Podcast with my wife and I as we break down similar stuff here, but my wife knows these parks in and out, so she's got a lot more of if you want to know how to do lightning lanes and all that stuff, the best strategies, she's got all that stuff handled. But OG55, thank you for being here as usual. Where can everybody find you out here on the wild web?
Well, you can find me.
No.
Our outro is all ASMR.
It's all ASMR, baby.
Thank
It's all
you,
ASMR.
Orange Grove, for being here. Where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me. No, you can find me right here on YouTube talking with these fine gentlemen all the time. Conductor, Mr. Vash Guy, Jared. These guys are on my channel all the time. We talk theme park, studio, corporate side, all that good stuff. We have a great team, and so check us out. Also, Instagram, Orange Grove 55, and on X, Orange Grove 55.
Absolutely. And Mr. Vash Sky, thank you for being here as well. And where can everybody find you? And I'm looking forward to your live stream on Saturday, because that's a topic.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be
Very
really, really good.
Can't wait.
Yes, live stream on Saturday. That's for the Vash and Vixen show. That's for the Sky Watchers out there or the members. Become a member today. Only $3.99 a month, or $2.99 a month, actually. Very affordable right there. But we're going to be talking about UFOs, Disney's connection, and the special on UFOs they wanted to do in the 1950s, were perhaps denied by the U.S. government. It is crazy right there. Also, too, tomorrow we're going to have a brand new show of more theme park related content. So if you like any of the conversations you have here, fantastic, because we're going to have so many more of them there. That's going to be on Vash Sky Parkcast at 6:30 p.m. Eastern tomorrow evening. So that's going to be very, very cool. Definitely come on over there, join us, and thank you so much for having me on this amazing stream.
I don't know.
It's so unsettling when people do it. I'm just like, oh gosh.
I know. I don't get the appeal of the ASMR, but it's huge. Like those
when
channels have
you did the little underneath thing, and my brain instantly been like, what else would he be doing? And he's like, oh no, I just got to stop it, because just ASMR just gives me the heebs. I don't know what it is. Vash was good because he made eye contact while he did it.
Oh yeah,
That was
I don't know if I could do that.
oh,
like he was
It's weird,
doing it on
right?
his own.
you got it, man. You got it. You got to keep the eye
I've
contact.
got that teleprompter right there. Just I can keep my eyes right on you.
God, this sounds creepy.
I'm gonna do a
It's
threatening
disconcerting,
video. I'll be like,
right?
"Vash, just give me a clip, threaten this person, and just Vash just listening to their soul ASMR.
Jesus.
I don't know
We'll
what
do
I
it.
did wrong, but I'm never doing
God.
it again. And Daily Dose from Deborah says, looking forward to seeing Vash and Vixen. Absolutely. I'm definitely going to check that. So go sign up over there to Vash Sky Parkcast. And Mr. Theme Park Conductor, thank you for being here. And where can everybody find you?
Absolutely. You can find me on YouTube, Blue Sky, and Instagram at Theme Park Conductor, on X at Theme Conductor, TikTok at Theme Park Conductor 1, and every Sunday at 5 or 7 p.m. for Conductor Sunday live stream, where all three of these amazing gentlemen have been on and will continue to be on as we discuss Disney and Universal. And we break down all this stuff because we have HHN, we have D23, we have all these amazing events at the parks. It's going to be such a great time. Oh, thank you for joining, by the way. Thank you.
That is weird.
Right?
That's me. When you watch someone else do it, it's creepy.
I know. You watch Vash is even just like, what have I done? What did I do here?
Yes.
Before we go, by the way, I just want to know, we are the theme park undercover unit. We will be in GTA 6, I think, as part of that game. So if you want to know, Vash looks the coolest out of anybody to do this. He's got
Yeah, you think so?
I think
think
the cigarette just lets you know, like, there's a little bit of like, I don't really give a damn, like I'm closer, I'm getting out. I don't know how this mission's gonna go, but you know what? We'll see.
I love
I'm
it.
ready for
I love
business. You
He's
know,
got those
right
the
there.
handcuffs are ready to go. They're not even cuffed. He's just like, I'll cuff you up right now. I'll get you.
it.
But, all right.
I do not smoke regularly, but for that one moment right there, Jared was like, we got to get the shot. And I was like, okay, well, you know what? This is the one time I'm ever going to smoke.
You don't have to
so
inhale.
Got the
Just
shot.
gotta it just looks cool. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I'll throw Conductor in one of these and see what we get. Maybe tell them to do an ASMR version. We'll see what it does.
Oh,
Makes it
God,
look so creepy.
Dude,
Whispering.
oh, God, no.
As long as you have that eye contact, you're good.
Yeah, I just got to make intense eye contact. But thank you guys all for being here. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for being here on the live stream. We're going to go. We'll be back next week. Keep your
You're
babies
welcome.
in the bed. Hope they sleep well.
Night night. Bye. No, I'm creeped out.
I'm dying.